From the Ben Pixel Studios in suburban Las Vegas, Nevada, this is Phone Booth Fighting, a twice-weekly podcast starring the two-time UFC heavyweight champion and current Bellator heavyweight contender, Frank Mir. There he is over there. Hi, Frank.
How's it going, man?
Good to see you. Wearing your Metcon shirt. I wore that shirt at the gym today.
It's a very comfortable, nice shirt. Right?
It was a nice shirt to roll in, I noticed. Yep, I enjoyed it very much.
You rolled it?
Well, I wouldn't say I rolled it. It was drilling.
See, I like this shirt. I wasn't rolling it.
Yeah, I wasn't rolling in it because I do measure. Okay, hold on a second. We're going to get off on a tangent, and that's okay. Let me introduce our guest so he can be involved. By the way, I'm Richard Hunter. Here is Eric Nicksick from Xtreme Couture, Randy Couture's gym, a legendary gym that's just down the road here from the Bent Pixel Studios. Eric is one of the MMA coaches over there and also the gym manager and has been a buddy for a while. You see him, you know what, Eric, the corner coach, sort of like the guys who, you know, maybe not your Greg Jacksons and that kind of stuff, but, you know, those corner coaches, they're like the great character actors in movies. You know, it's one of those things where if somebody doesn't recognize their name, you show them, and you're like, that guy. Yeah, I've seen that guy a bunch. Yeah.
Who's the opaque guy?
Yeah, you're that dude. So Eric was very busy this weekend at UFC 226, Ultimate Fighter, undefeated season finale the night before that. In fact, I had run into Eric over at Xtreme Couture because I was over there to do Big John's judging and reffing seminar, his command course, and saw Eric and he was telling me about what a busy weekend he had and everything. And I said, well, hey, come on down the road after it's all over with and help us break down some of those fights. So that's what he's going to do. But first, let's lead, as anyone would, with the pleasing texture of the Metcon Supplements T-shirt, because I had it on, and it's funny you say that about not rolling in it. I consider this before I go to the gym. I think about two things. If I'm going to wear a shirt in the gym, and if it's real rolling, I'm wearing a rash guard or a gi, but, you know, just drills or whatever, I'm going to wear a T-shirt. But I do give thought to that. One, do I want to mess up a shirt eventually if something happens? And then also, if a shirt is really important to me, I don't like to have it in the gym lest it just get misplaced or I'll leave it laying around somewhere. So I actually stand there at my T-shirt drawer and think about what T-shirt is appropriate for the gym.
There are shirts that I train in if we're rolling and stuff. Yeah. If I run out of, because sometimes you only have so many rash guards, or I don't know, just sometimes not in the mood for it. But those are the shirts I don't give a shit if they get torn. Right. Like, this shirt I like, so I don't want something, because then someone grabs you the wrong, hey, man,
that's my shit.
Chill, buddy. Chill.
Yeah. You know, the one I always like to always keep in my gym bag is my TrentCotney.com T-shirt, because TrentCotney.com was such an important part of a bygone era of the UFC. Yeah. There was a day when TrentCotney.com and Dynamic Fastener were the two mystery guests in the octagon. Yeah. People would look at that and a question mark would form over their head and they would say, who the hell is Trent Cotney and what's a dynamic fastener, right? And so we actually eventually met Trent Cotney, and he sponsored one of Frank's fights.
Yeah, how's he doing anyways?
He's great, yeah. Do you know the story of Trent Cotney?
No, but I mean, that they blew up. They were sponsoring everybody for forever there.
I'll tell you the story. It's a great story. Shout out to Trent. And again, we'll just go further off on this tangent, but that's okay because I think a lot of MMA fans would like to know the story. This guy, and I looked him up just because I wanted to know what the story was too, because I kept seeing it everywhere. TrentCotney.com, who is that guy? And he is a lawyer. He is a commercial construction lawyer, I think, if I've got that right. So he's not like doing capital murder cases. He's doing he's in the from the corporate end of like big construction projects and things like that. You need lawyers involved to make sure you got all your legal P's and Q's handled. He is based in Georgia, and he's just a big MMA fan. And he saw this as an opportunity of a way to support fighters. And Frank actually was an unusually high-profile fighter for him to sponsor, given that he and I hit it off. He came on the show with us, just a nice guy. So Plus, we're both into pit bull rescue. That's another thing I like about him.
Right.
So, yeah, he donates to a lot of pit bull rescue charities, and I have two of my own. So, anyway, just a super nice guy. But you look into this, and you find out he's just a guy who was an MMA fan who, does pretty well for himself, could pay to put the T-shirt on guys. And if you look at the guys he's sponsoring, and if you know the world of MMA like we do, there's guys on the the front end of that card a lot of times that really need the help.
Right.
And he was taking good care of them.
That's awesome.
It was kind of one of the sad things about when Reebok came in is that those kinds of things went away.
Gone. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. It's like I always told Derrick Lewis, his first couple of fights, back before I even didn't know much about him, he would what I remember about him was on that
Bubba Shrimp or whatever it was.
Yeah, on his across his ass.
No, it was like a
across his ass it said Mike Seafood.
Yeah, Mike Seafood.
And I imagined Mike Seafood being someplace in Houston that hooked him up whenever he brings the family in, and it's seafood on the house. And I talked to Derrick about it one time. Turns out I was exactly right. He's like, oh yeah, and then he went on for 10 minutes about how great they were.
I love that guy. We did a charity tour together for a couple months ago out in April at JBLE with the MMA Junkie guys.
Oh yeah,
Derrick Lewis came on that trip. It was great.
Yeah,
it was great. I had a good time with him. I actually cornered against him with Roy, and the first thing he was like, "What was your game plan, boy?" And I was like, "What the fuck you think it was, bro? Take your ass down. I ain't trying to play with your fucking ass."
Do you know that? Actually, it's funny you mentioned that because I was for 226. My press box seat was next. I was actually sitting between George and Goes from MMA Junkie, and Goes showed me a picture from that trip you were talking about where they're on a boat and Derrick Lewis is holding Goes like it's the Titanic. He's holding him while he's leaning out. He
busted the balls a little bit the last press conference, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. So also we were sitting together at the post-fight press conference. And I was talking it was my question because I asked Derrick, I essentially said, hey, you didn't get a post-fight interview.
I meant to tell you, I didn't cut you off yesterday on air, but that was pretty cool of you. You know what I mean? Like, you kind of gave him
his moment, yeah.
You did. You know what I mean? No one else really did that, you know what I mean? And as a fighter, I appreciate that. I'm sitting there
for sure.
You know what? He didn't get his moment inside the the cage, and you basically said, hey, so had you been able to, you set him up. Here's your opportunity without you having to be awkward and just do it yourself. You launched him a nice little softball.
Yeah,
thanks, man.
I saw that too. It was great.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, I did see that too.
Thanks. Well, and actually, to me, it was, I understood why they weren't doing it after the fans' reaction to the fight and everything, but especially once I saw the position he was taking, which was he was taking all the blame. Which,
put it on me.
We said
and I still don't agree with not letting, that emotional, almost kind of like, well, you know what, now no one gets to fucking do a post-fight. It's like, you're still building guys up. These are still two guys that hopefully eventually maybe want to fight for a title. In Ngannou's case, fight again for a title.
Yes.
You had a bad fight. Like, here's an opportunity to go ahead and let somebody, just like he did. How much better would it have been, I think, for the crowd at that fight if given that opportunity to say,
correct.
You know what, shit fight. I'm on. Hey, I pulled it off over a tough guy, but I'm not proud of my performance. I think people like that. Just like they took to his. Hey, you know what? It wasn't my best performance, guys. I'm not making excuses. It sucked tonight. Next time I'll do better. Like, people like that.
For sure. And he's always been good on the mic. He's always been good on the mic.
Yeah, so I think that especially, maybe if I'd heard Ngannou win it, maybe not give him the opportunity to his English, mash it up. But with Derrick, I'm like, okay, you already know the guy is a fucking witty ass. The guy's fucking smart and shit. You know what I mean? Like, really clever guy, you know what I mean? Like, I think sometimes people might underestimate that because of the southern accent, almost a good old boy type. It's like, dude, that guy's fucking clever, man. Some of his jokes and observations he makes, he's a smart motherfucker. Let him fucking talk. Let's see what he has to say. You know what I mean? And and really, I think it would only endear fans more to him.
Yeah, I thought he handled it the best way that he could, in that he did take all the blame, and it takes two. It really, no matter how you look at it, it's not completely his fault, but I thought it was smart of him to do it because whether or not, however much blame people wanted to place on Ngannou, he was going to leave that up to other people. He was just going to hold himself accountable. And I saw that in the press conference. I saw that was the direction that he wanted to go. And I kind of, I guess to your point, imagined that that's what we would have heard if he had gotten the mic. So
well, it's just refreshing this day and age, though. When everybody's a finger pointer, when somebody goes, "Hey, man,"
no one owns up to shit.
It's me.
Very few people own up to shit.
Very.
And really, he could have went along the signs of like, well, the other guy didn't throw much, didn't give me much, and my back blew out.
Right.
Like he could have pointed to some external factors that were really honest factors. I mean, you don't think his back was a factor? The fact that Ngannou wasn't really throwing anything back but shaking in front of him. I mean, Ngannou hits hard. So he's sitting there. It's like, he's not giving me a lot to work with. It does, like you said, I mean, that's why styles make some exciting fights. Some fights look like shit.
Right.
You can get two exciting fighters and you put them together and it's a fucking awful thing to watch.
Yeah. What's funny is Will Harris, the anatomy of a fighter, Will Harris does all of that stuff. We were talking the day before we were cutting weight with Brad, and I told him, I go, look, this might be the most boring fight you'll ever see. Swear to God. So the night of the fight, Will's like, "You fucking called him." I'm like, yeah, but who wants to serve up another guy and get hit in the face by one of these two dudes?
Yeah.
I'm good.
Because I was talking about Ngannou's power. I'm like, did everybody forget that fucking Derrick can knock a building down with his right hand?
Yeah.
I don't think Francis wanted to fucking get hit either. You know what I mean? Both those guys, if whoever lands, it's going to sleep.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I thought it could go one of two ways. I thought, one, someone's getting knocked the fuck out pretty quickly.
Right.
Or two, they're going to be staring at each other like, you go. No, fuck you, you go. Fuck you, you go. And which is what everybody got.
Happened, yeah.
I'll tell you, what happened in the arena, and it is only the second time I've ever seen it.
The wave?
Well, no, the lights on the cell phone. Did you see that?
No.
I saw it the first time I'd ever seen it.
I wasn't there, so what
the
happened
first time I'd ever seen it was, and I was live at this fight too, was Damian Maia and Tyron Woodley.
Oh, shit.
And if you remember, that was not an exciting fight. And so,
there's an example of a fight that I don't really blame fighters for.
Style again.
Stylistically, it's like, okay, Damian took 27 shots, I think. I think I'm close in the ballpark, right?
Yeah.
Some ungodly number, right? So he's trying to do what he's best at.
Yes.
Get Tyron Woodley to the ground. Woodley's going, fuck you, I'm not going to go to the ground because I'm going to get my fucking head ripped off. I'm going to stay up on my feet and try to land shots, and obviously I can't open up my striking offense in fear of you fucking put me on my ass because it might be the last time I ever go down there. So I get it, you know what I mean? Like when people are like, "Oh, fucking," I'm like, "Who are you blaming?"
Right.
Those guys it's like, you know what I mean? It's like both those styles make sense. That it's like, well, I mean, one guy's really good at avoiding the wrestling, the other guy is great at jiu-jitsu. It's like, guess what's going to happen? I mean, one guy does not want to go to the ground, you know?
Well, at that level, too, when it's a title fight, I get it because it's a matchup you have to make.
Yeah.
But what I don't understand is down the lower ranks when a guy like Sean Shelby or Mick Maynard gives shit for the fact of it being a boring fight. Well, you motherfuckers matchmaked it.
Yeah, I agree with you on that.
You made the match.
Yeah, when especially if you're outside the top 5.
Yeah.
And even most likely outside the top 10.
Right.
You guys can juggle the shit around and be like, all right, this guy likes to fucking stand and bang.
Right.
Hey, this guy's a fucking Olympic level fucking shooter. It's like,
yeah.
All right, well, that might make an exciting fight because if this guy wins here, but you're like, oh, these two guys are phenomenal wrestlers. Like, oh, so we're going to have like a fucking Bader and fucking Phil Davis fight?
Davis, exactly.
Fuck that.
Right. Well, it was the prime example to me was the Gray Maynard when I had Gray versus Ryan Hall. It was his jiu-jitsu practitioner.
Oh, I remember that.
And we can go over a long list of shit that went on in this whole fucking fight. But to me, Sean Shelby's mad at Gray.
Yeah.
Well, you're the one that called us, motherfucker. We just took the fight.
Yeah.
You know, at what point is there onus on the matchmaker?
You know what I think happens is I think that there is, and it may even be subconscious on a lot of people. He
was mad at Gray? I thought you could be mad at Ryan.
I know he was mad at Gray.
I'm very mad at both. I mean,
Ryan hasn't fought since.
Yeah.
They haven't even booked him again.
It's one of those things where it's like, okay, Gray, go in there and engage him. It's like, well, that's what he's best at. All right, cool.
Yeah.
Well, Ryan, if he doesn't engage, you stand up and fucking box him for a little bit.
Yes.
Don't just throw the fucking
yes.
crazy and then fall to your ass.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I think maybe there's a subconscious expectation where they think that, and I'm not just talking about the matchmakers because I think it's maybe kind of channeled through like the casual fans' thoughts too, where, okay, you've got a matchup of two distinct disciplines. You know that going in, but maybe subconsciously there's a thought like, well, if it turns out not to be going very well or be very exciting, someone will abandon their style
and go.
Someone will give up,
and
that's an easy thought to think when it's not you.
Right.
You know,
correct.
When it's you're thinking about wins and losses and how does this affect me and what's the best strategy to win.
Well, and also too, how you lose can drastically drop you down.
Right.
Losing a decision on a guy that outpointed you, you know, you're not maybe injured, but you're sitting there going, well, I'm losing the fight. I'm going to abandon the game plan. I'm like, what, and get a highlight reel knockout? You know what I mean? Like, that happened with me with Mirko Krokop. When I fought him, I heard people booing, but it's like, motherfuckers, do you want me to chase this guy down?
Right.
I mean, it's still Mirko fucking Krokop.
Yeah, at any
His
point.
left leg could still put you in a fucking cemetery. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, I have to be somewhat cautious, and every time I engaged, he'd back up. It wasn't until the third round where I'm like, I can't catch this motherfucker. Like, he's so good at backing away, and then if you overextend yourself, he's gonna fucking pull straight left hand, fucking left kick, and fucking lights out. There's like 15 guys you can go on YouTube and see get highlight reel knockout, chasing him, trying to catch him, and he fucking puts you lights out. Yeah. So finally, I backed away from him and just made something work. But it wasn't like I was like, okay, I'm gonna back up and see if he can chase me. But I didn't take drastic measures. I even heard people say, oh, you should have jumped guard. I'm like, really?
Wow.
Really, like, make that kind of, but then they're going to score against me as I do that. Like, so it's whose responsibility is to abandon their game plan just to make something happen. It's like, guys, we're fighters, we're competitive, we want to win. You know what I mean? Like, and a fighter, trust me, would rather win boring than lose exciting.
Right.
I can't imagine how bad it would suck to have you jump guard on me if I were your friend. God almighty. Big old mask come flying in the air. Ugh. And now that fight means so much more to me, Eric, because Frank pointed out to me this this nuance of good sportsmanship in that fight when one of Frank's testicles moved outside of his cup. And Prokop sort of gave you the room to work that out, right?
And we actually got in trouble, too, because we talked to each other during the fight.
Oh, yeah.
It was like, I think towards the end of the second round, I had him pinned against the cage trying to – the guy fucking has great double underhooks. Like, he's really good at stopping shots. I'm trying to fucking – you know, I can't change levels. This fucker, every time I get him against the cage, he just goes double underhooks, right? I'm like, motherfucker, I cannot take this guy down. And obviously I wanted to get him down, so he goes, hey, let's go fight out in the middle of the cage. I'm like, okay, but first let's go to the ground.
I love it.
We'll fight out there, but you pull guard first.
Yeah, let's do that shit first. Oh, I love it.
Give me a few minutes there, and we'll go out there, okay, buddy?
Oh, I love it.
That is funny. Well, so fast forward to this weekend, Eric. Now, you mentioned the Brad Tavares fight.
Yeah.
Well, let's start there. I mean, that was a main event on the Ultimate Fighter finale. And, didn't go Brad's way, but was, I think, an important fight because of, what we got to see out of, I think, this was a serious test for Brad's opponent.
Yes.
So anyway, just, your thoughts on the fight.
At the end of the day, I was super proud of Brad. He showed mana. The guy's a fucking warrior. Didn't go our way. We had some things just like any camp. Frank will tell you, there's injuries, there's this, or got something going on.
I haven't found one yet that does it.
Right? So
I think I'd be shocked if I've ever asked him, like, hey, honestly, everything good?
Oh yeah, great, man.
Nothing happened.
Shape.
Really? Nothing?
Shape.
No injury? Nothing?
Yeah.
No, I'm perfectly fine. I'm all. You trained for this,
right?
Right.
What'd you do? Bubble wrap the whole camp.
Right.
Brad end up breaking his foot. There were some things that happened right away, and it limited him. So to his credit, man, I mean, Israel looked unreal.
Yeah.
Really kept his range. Obviously the game plan was to try to get on his hips. We actually started switching the single a little bit more. We did ground him one time. But we felt that we were going to be able to take him down at will and hopefully TKO him on the ground. Didn't happen. So with that being said, we had to adjust on the fly with an injury and try to figure out what we had to do. And Brad just kept going. He's just one of those guys, man. You got to kill that dude. He's not going to go out.
Yeah, Israel Adesanya, that was his third UFC fight, by far his stiffest test. He's now 14-0. He's fought 3 times all this year. And, definitely looked to me, I mean, it sucks when you have to be the test for one of those guys, but it also speaks well of you if people are going, hey, it's not like he's beating some schlub here. Right. That guy looks like he's really got something serious for the UFC.
I think he showed a complete game.
Yeah.
With us in this fight, and they have a guy that they can now start building and marketing. And I think that was the risk, was do we put Israel Adesanya as a main event against Brad Tavares? If the UFC is trying to push this guy, he could have been the sacrificial lamb to Brad, and none of us would have been surprised if Brad would have put him away. So it was one of those things that I don't think by any means the UFC was trying to baby this kid.
Yeah,
so let's give him a stiff test.
And I think that's one area that the UFC's always done well in their matchmaking is that they put guys usually that either winning situation, there's a benefit to them. So it's not like they very rarely put it to where one guy, it's like, oh, fuck, well, if he wins, what are we going to do with him?
Right.
That's why you don't really, when people sometimes say, well, in boxing you have mismatches. I'm like, yeah, but there's so many ways to lose in our sport, and some of the greatest fighters in the world get caught and shit. That if you put a schlub up there, a guy who's a tomato can, that if he fought the guy, 9 out of 10 times he gets his ass kicked, there's still a chance that one time he fucking catches him with something because he's still a fighter. He's still a trained athlete. So I think that then you have a guy who you can't do anything with. You know what I mean? Like it's like almost like the situation we had with the last guy that fought CM Punk.
Mike Jackson.
Oh yeah, Mike Jackson.
If that with that guy winning now, that's a guy that what are you going to do? You're not going.
Yeah.
Really, honestly, he was put in there to lose.
Right.
They thought that CM Punk could beat him. And at this point, with him not even beating him, they're like, well, we're not even going to keep you.
What are we doing here?
You know what I mean? Like, and that's a situation I think they would be in more often than not if they really made these boxing, you're such an astute student of boxing. You see a guy who's 30-0 in boxing. 20 of the guys that he fought were not professional boxers. I mean, they're a pro boxer, but they're guys that go to work in the morning, go to the gym maybe 3 times a week when they get off, crack a couple beers with the boys, and then they're like, hey, you want to fight on Saturday?
I'm in.
Fuck yeah, man. What am I going to get? Well, we'll give you $2,000. You want to do a 6-rounder? I'm in. You know what I mean?
Club fighters. Because the thing is that to me, the hallmark of any promotion should be that no fighter should ever look like they don't belong in there. It's different, when, okay, I have the disadvantageous style, some of those style mismatches like we're talking about, but you can't say one of those guys didn't belong in the promotion. When you get involved in this scenario of, oh my gosh, this doesn't even look safe, like in retrospect, should this have even been sanctioned, then you're way off the track at that point. Now that snapped a 4-fight win streak for Brad, 5 of his last 6 he won, so things have been going very well for him. Now you mentioned the foot issue, like what he's thinking as far as how long he'd be out?
Well, so we had the foot issue, I think it was the Theodora fight, and then it was misdiagnosed, and I think it ended up being a Liz Frank fracture that they found out. So that's the whole reason why he got pulled from the fight the first time.
Sorry, because I'm just a curious asshole. What's a Liz Frank?
It's a type of break in the foot. So I'm not 100% sure, but I know
is that from too much road work, or did he kick someone's elbow?
Kick somebody.
That's fucking worse.
I think it was a kick. I believe he caught a knee on a kick.
Yeah,
like turned in on it. But we fought Talus Latis with it, and then it's no excuse. It was just misdiagnosed, and then so he went in to go get the MRI done, and right away they see the break, and they pull him. They don't even call him. Dr. D calls Dana, hey, his fucking foot's broke. He's done. So he's in Hawaii. Ray and I are out in New York, and when the fight's off, we're like, hold on, nobody even talked to us. Like, are you out? Like, what's the deal? Well, they figured with this type of break he was going to be out. Well, Brad's like, no, I've dealt with this for long enough. I'm not going to pull out of a main event. This is a good opportunity for me. Well, the foot had been fine through the whole camp. We didn't kick with it a whole lot.
Yeah.
He broke it again on the first kick he threw. Yeah. So it is what it is, man. And that's an inherent risk that we took as a team.
Just be surprised when I missed diagnosis. I told you when I walked into the Antonio Bigfoot fight, I had a broken hand. Didn't know I had a broken hand. I threw a punch. We were over at the bottom of Red Rock sparring, and I threw a lead hook real hard, and the guy ducked into it, and I threw it thumb horizontal, right? And I fractured the scaphoid in my hand. I felt the pop, and I was like, oh, fuck, my hand hurts. To the point where I'm like, oh, shit, it was 2 weeks before the fight. I'm all, fuck, I think I fucking broke my hand. I never had broken my hand before.
Right.
So I go down to Centennial Hospital, go to the emergency room. They're taking x-rays of my hand. And I mean, I could barely close my hand. It's fucking in pain now. The guy comes back and goes, no, you're fine.
You're good to go.
You're good to go. I'm like, really? And to the point where, Jennifer's there and she's like,
he had money on the fight, by the way, that doctor.
And I'm like, I feel bad right now. Like, I was almost embarrassed.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, holy shit. He goes, that's probably like a deep bruise. I'm like, wow. I'm a bitch now. Like, I thought I could physically deal with pain.
Right.
A lot better than that. Like, I've broken my femur. I've broken my tibia. Even when I broke my femur, I moved myself onto the bed. Like, the nurse was like, we got to get more people. Like, nah, I got it.
got him up.
And then the nurses even, like, looked at the other nurse and goes, have you ever seen that before?
Nope.
Like, no, I've never seen anybody move themselves.
And that's the fight where you hit him with the 1-3, yeah?
Yeah, because I switched to orthodox. That was my left hand. I had no right hand. In fact, when he hit the ground and I punched him with my right hand, my brain went, oh, fuck.
Dude.
And then I pulled back and started throwing elbows.
Oh, shit, yeah.
Because my hand hurt. But then again, I still didn't know it was broken. So leading up to, I couldn't even hit the double in bag. Like, I remember the next day in practice, I taped up my hand, gauze and tape, like professional tape, right? I go in there, this is double in bag, I'm going to warm up. I go pop, pop, double jab, and I fucking just, my hand goes between my legs. I hunch over. I'm like, holy shit. I'm like, that's a bruise? Like, fuck.
I feel like somebody's stabbing you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it goes, now I win the fight. I'm like, well, I'm going to switch to orthodox, just fight right-handed.
Yeah.
You know, no problem. My left hand's my dominant arm when it comes to fighting. You know, as a southpaw, I like the straight left. I'm like, I'll just turn into a jab hook punch. Switch to doing that. So 2 or 3 months go by. I still can't even shake anybody's hand. My hand still hurts me. It's like, wow, this is the craziest thing. So I'm doing just a general checkup with my general practitioner, and he has an x-ray machine there, and we're talking about it. I'm like, yeah, my hand still bugs me. He goes, well, you know, where do you hurt? And I pointed at it. He goes, oh, so I mean, so this x-ray came back okay? I was like, what are you doing with your hand? He goes, oh, you got to make a circle with your index and your thumb
to open it up.
He goes, they didn't take it that way. Like, no, they had me put my hand flat. They had me put my hand sideways, close my fingers, spread my fingers, you know, in direction. He goes, they didn't have you do the okay sign. I'm like, fuck no. I have my x-rays. I can prove it to you. I never did that. So we do the okay sign. He goes, oh, look, there you can see where it's been healing. There's a line through it, and there's all this like white calcium that floats around it. He goes, yeah, you broke your hand. The bone was split right in half.
Oh, shit.
I'm like, I'm on the phone with Jennifer. I'm like, look, I'm not a bitch. I told you. Probably in hindsight a good thing because it hurt so bad. Had they told me it was broken, probably, honestly, I would have pulled out of the fight.
Yeah, if you would have known.
Yeah, instead I'm sitting there going, well, I can't tell everybody that my hand hurts and I'm not going to fight. You know what I mean? Like, I already feel like a bitch as it is, you know? Like, I'll just keep my mouth shut and fucking
Dude, I still use you as an example for the 1-3 on that fight. Yeah. You read Perry. And he goes, oh, 1-3, boom, murked him. We still use that example all the time. Like, Frank Mir, Bigfoot, remember 1-3?
Well, see, now you've got a postscript to the story. You can tell them, then you'd be like, and you know what?
Yes.
Broken hand.
Broken hand, yeah. Wonder why you're standing orthodox.
Yeah, right. Very nice. So that was Brad's fight. Did you guys have anybody else on Friday's card?
No one else on Friday, just Brad.
And then Saturday.
Saturday we had Emily Whitmire, and then I had Uriah Hall.
There you go. Now, what was the Emily Whitmire story? You were teasing something before the show.
So, you know, Emily's been with us for about 4 years now. She moved out from Oregon. Misha Tate brought her down. Great kid. And so what happened was after the fight, she ends up having some words with Vinny because Vinny cornered the opposing fighter, who's our teammate. I corner Vinny all the time. What ended up happening
Vinny cornered the other guy?
Vinny cornered the other girl, yeah. And you know, what happened was...
That's kind of weird.
Is
it one of his good buddies?
No, I mean, it's one of his purple belts, but she trains at Alpha Male now. She used to train at Syndicate with Vinny. And it was never a big deal to any of us, but what made it a big deal is we had talked to Vinny. Hey, are you going to corner this girl? And he said no, and then I asked him again, and I said, hey, bro, just let me know if you're going to corner this girl, just so I can prepare. And he's like, no, dude, I'm not going to corner her. So at some point down the line, Vinny ended up changing his mind, or something came up, and... Granted, he had his fight, and he didn't want to deal with any of this shit. You know, he fought a couple weeks ago, and I went out and cornered him for that fight in Chicago. So worrying about another fighter or fight you don't really have a whole lot invested in.
When did he let you guys know?
He didn't. He actually told Coach Dennis, and Dennis just said, "Hey, you need to talk to Eric. You know, he's your boy. You've known each other for 10 years. He corners you, everything else." And he was the one. You guys got into
war together, man.
Exactly, and that's the whole thing. And screwed up. That was it. End of the day. You know, he's still my brother. He fucked up. But Emily, the emotions of the fight ran a little deep at the end, and she ran over, flipped him off, and fuck you, Vinny. You're a piece of shit. And then runs over and talks to Rogan. So I mean, the unfortunate thing about this whole situation is, for one, it took away from a great performance on her part. Yeah. Everybody wanted to talk about Vinny and what happened and the drama and this and this and that. Yeah. And you know what, man? I just killed it. I was like, hey, it's over. I fucked up before. You fucked up before.
Yeah,
we all make mistakes. He's
so
a
you're
brother.
sorry, move on.
He's a brother.
Yeah.
He's a brother.
Yeah.
That's it. It's done.
I would imagine the awkwardness though of just seeing that. Boy, that's right out of pro wrestling where somebody comes out of the curtain with the other guy.
Well,
oh my God!
It hit me hard,
yeah,
man. I went
yeah.
to go get my credentials, and I see my boy standing there, and I'm like, oh, Vinny.
Yeah.
Like, what the fuck, man?
Yeah.
And he's like, I'm sorry. I should have. I was like, hey, I'm not even going to make a big deal about it. If I make a big deal about it, so does my fighter. So it's done. It's over. I'm going to go handle it, hoping that since we were blue corner, that we would have been shuttled in first. And she would never even seen him until she got in the corner.
Oh, yeah.
Well, of course, they're taking them off the bus first, and she looks over and says, is that fucking Vinny? I was like, oh, shit.
Yeah.
I go, hey, you're not fighting Vinny. You're fighting Jamie Moyle, and it ain't a big deal.
Well, these are MMA problems. You know, most people's real life problem is like when their mutual friend invites their ex to the birthday party, and they're going to have to try to avoid it. This is like the MMA version of that. Where there's some weird, Well, you know, Frank's best man at his wedding cornered against him in Roy Nelson's fight, right?
Oh shit, who was that?
James Johnson. You ever done?
I do, James,
Yeah, James is one of my groomsmen.
No shit.
Yeah.
Or groomsman,
groomsman.
Yeah, I know.
So my brother was my best man, and then James was right next to him.
That's awesome.
So when people talk about that shit, I'm like, I had to look over and see that one of my best friends for like the last 10 years
in the corner
was fucking cornering the guy to kick my ass.
Oh shit, that's funny.
Yeah, that was awkward. I remember that was kind of like weird because it's like, you know, because James is actually the one that gave me my job.
Right, Tim Rhino, yeah.
Yeah, I was doing front desk work at Texas Station, but the 9/11 hit. So all of a sudden, I was on extra board, and who knows when I was going to fucking work again. People weren't fucking traveling to Vegas or traveling anywhere for.
But they didn't stop going to strip clubs.
Right.
We weren't going to let the terrorists win.
No fucking way.
Well, the terrorists have been at the strip club.
Yeah, that's right.
Can't let them outdo us.
There too. Yeah, shit.
Yeah, so I mean, from that moment on, we had become really close and stuff, and then just after the years, kind of just drifted apart. I think just difference of thought processes and stuff. James, you know, I don't know. I've always kind of he's pretty devout Christian, you know, and I'm
That's
not.
definitely different.
Right.
Yeah, so I think that,
Does he have stake in Rhinos?
No, he's just general manager. I mean, as far as I don't know.
Yeah. Huh. Yeah, he cornered with us. I think 2 of the fights that I had. I had Roy for 4 fights, and he was with us for 2. And then, you know,
soft-spoken guy.
Yeah, very
nice dude.
Cool dude. Yeah, cool dude.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was awkward.
So good win for Emily. Now Hall's fight with Paulo Costa. You know, Uriah Hall looked like the Uriah Hall that everybody gets excited about seeing for sure. I mean, he ran into a guy that you know, again, I mean, much like Brad's fight, you know, you're looking at an undefeated fighter who I think has a very bright future ahead of him.
All finishes.
So, yeah, so I mean, no shame in that. You wish it had gone differently, but that being said, how much positive do you take away from how Uriah Hall looked?
You know, it's Uriah is just one of those guys that I think we've all been accustomed to, that he can explode and do anything at any moment. Yeah. It's just always been when the fight comes to him. Does he wilt? There's things that people have talked about the way he does, and I think we cleared that up in the Jocko fight. He got beat up pretty good in the first round. You know, we found a way to win that fight, and he has a comeback. And I think it was one of those things where it hit a switch, man. He believed in himself. You know, unfortunately, we had the weight cut problem in the Vitor fight. Yeah. This fight was great. We were 188 before he went to bed. The night before weigh-ins. So he woke up, floated a pound, walked it off. So, I mean, all these things of him just getting better at everything he does in his craft has been great. And the guy loves to wrestle now. He's in there. He sees guys, you know. So I told him, I said, shit, this is an opportunity for us where no one's going to expect you to blast double this dude. We scored a nice takedown. It had a little level change, and it gave it a little avidity. Like people were worrying about the up-down level change now with him. Added a different element. So he's willing to work and listen and be creative. The one thing that in Big Red Riding we talked about in the game plan was you can't go near the cage with this guy. We got to keep that in the center.
Yeah, he turns on when he sees your back heel hit that cage. That dude fucking.
Yep.
His killer instinct kicks in.
And to his credit, I think he saw the way Uriah covered, and he said, let me start digging into the body, and then we'll start working our way back upstairs. So there were some adjustments that we tried to make, especially when Uriah was firing that jab, man. This kid's head was just firing back. You got to follow up with a cross. You know, he just never really did. I know a lot of the camp we expected to pull counter. We expected jab, pull, stab R2. It didn't come. Well, because Uriah was ripping the guy's head back so far, there was never a pull counter. Let's just fire the 2. You know, so just some small little adjustments where I felt like we could have put the guy away, you know. But it is what it is, and at the end of the day, here was another top-level opponent. He was undefeated, and Uriah came out and put on a goddamn show. He looked good. The ref didn't help us out too much, but you can't blame the shit on that. It is what it is, you know. But you know, I was proud of the guy.
Yeah, very impressive. And good.
Uriah Hall is an explosive athlete. I remember when we first got to see him on The Ultimate Fighter.
Yeah,
and that he I think who was it? He kicked with the spin hook kick.
Adam Sella.
Fuck.
Yeah.
Adam actually was looking good that first round. Like in fact, I thought Adam was winning up to that point. In the first round, I mean, it was a 1-round fight, but for the first 3 minutes, he was busy. Adam's a good kickboxer, you know what I mean? I think he also fought in that WKA, the Chuck Norris League. And he was out there. I mean, he told us, he goes, I think I could beat him in striking. I'm like, oh, fuck it. You know what I mean? Hey, it's your career. If that's what you believe in, I'm not going to fucking, you know, not my game plan, but if you want to go with it, let's go. He went out there, and he was doing great, and all of a sudden it was just like,
gone.
Yeah, they just paused for a second. They both stared at each other, and boom, spin hook kick. Like, I mean, Adam, I don't think woke up until he was at the hospital.
Yeah.
Wow.
If you can think of it like walking down the street with somebody and just getting hit with a sniper rifle.
Yeah.
Like the dude's all of a sudden just gone.
Yeah.
I mean, and it's the same way when I hold pads for Uriah, in the back of my mind is that kick. Like at any point, this motherfucker can explode and my head can end up in the goddamn
don't
rafters.
check a text
You know,
when that's going
like
on.
This dude is, and that's the beauty of him. His feints, his hips, the way he exchanges and does the things in the pocket. He doesn't stay silent. Everything kind of has a move to it or a feint or a level change. You're like, oh, shit, because it just like that. And
so much speed and power that his fakes, you can't just, you know, there's some guys that don't hit hard. And, you know, I'll work with those guys in sparring, and they'll shake and move. I'm like, and they're like, oh, you're not reacting. I'm not really nervous.
I don't give a shit.
Yeah, you know what I mean? But there's other guys, when they move, I'm like, oh, fuck. Where are you? I'm over here, man. Call me when that thing goes. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
I'll stay over here. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Yeah. Was that your season? Was that when you assistant coach?
Yeah, when I assisted
John
with
Jones?
John, yeah.
Okay, that season, Ultimate Fighter. I get them all confused now that I think about them.
Yeah, because actually it was because of me that we didn't get, because I think we had first pick.
Yeah.
If I remember correctly, because John was giving me some shit about that. Because we're sitting there, he goes, oh, I really like that guy. I'm like, man, he can't grapple. Like, he's one-dimensional. Like, no.
Are you talking about Uriah?
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Uriah. So I actually fucking picked against him. You know what I mean? Like, I was like, no, you know what I mean? You know, this is about being well-rounded. Like, hey, this guy's a fucking ninja on his feet.
Yeah. Right.
But, like, his wrestling, his jiu-jitsu, like, during the whole, like, when everybody's doing the melody of workouts, I'm like, dude, his jiu-jitsu, like, didn't impress me at all. I'm like, he's going to get taken down and get smashed.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And then and we picked Hester instead. I'm like, no, that guy's explosive and he's well-rounded. I mean, not a ninja at any area where you can sit there and go, well, okay, here's his spot. But good at everything. I'm like, oh, that's a guy that, you know, that's always been more my mentality. Let's go with the well-rounded guy.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
And, you know, a couple times after spin hook kick knockouts and this and that, I'm like, you know, John's looking at me like, we could have had him. Fuck, I know.
Now, that was the season they had a fight to get in the house, right? They had a fight. And Uriah didn't look too great in the fight to get in.
No.
If I remember
I don't think so. Yeah, I remember sitting there going, he got taken down and didn't do much off the bottom. You know what I mean? I think that my favorites that season was Josh Salmon. That's who I thought who was going to end up winning it. And then I was big on Devin Hester too. I was like, oh, this guy's a really good athlete. He's really open-minded. You could talk to him. You know, everything you're doing, the different drills. Let's go with that guy. Yeah. And then you know, the last pick was fucking. Remember was
Kelvin. Gaslam, right?
Yeah, Kelvin. Yeah. To this day, I still go, hey, man.
Sorry.
There was all those guys that, I'm with everybody on that one. Nobody picked him to do shit. I'm all, the fat kid over there ain't doing shit.
And now he's coaching the next season of the Ultimate Fighter.
No, now, I mean, look, if you go back now, I think it's been
guy.
about 5 fights now that I don't bet against him.
Right.
Even when he fought Woodley, I'm like, I'm not betting against him, man.
Yeah.
This fucking guy finds a way to win, dude.
He does.
Like, he fucking demolishes people.
I always loved Chael's quote about him, which of course he ended up being on Chael's team, but Chael said that he told him, he told Kelvin Gastelum, he said, I can't say anything that I think you're good at, but I can't say anything I can see that you're bad at.
Right. Yeah.
But I mean, he's a really good boxer, good hood movement, good wrestler, you know?
Yeah, he's definitely coming into his own, man.
Yeah,
and even then, though, because I remember talking to him, I remember that when he had won, I'm like, hey, so did you wrestle in college? He's all, nah. I'm like, what? You didn't even wrestle, high school level wrestling? I'm like, looking at him, I'm like, dude, like, I don't know if you got the memo, but you shouldn't be as good as you are.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
where the fuck is this skill coming from?
Yeah. Yuma, right? Yuma, Arizona
Yeah.
kid.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Now, speaking of Uriah Hall, though, I don't know if you saw Adesanya's post-fight interview on UFC Tonight, but he did the post-fight interview with Karen Bryant, Kenny Florian, I think Michael Bisping was there. And if I'm not mistaken, if I heard it correctly, he was calling out or saying some things about Uriah Hall that were apparently insulting, but there was some sort of language barrier and I didn't understand the insults. Karen Bryan was saying that it was some sort of Jamaican disparaging
really?
Slang or something.
Yeah.
Really?
I was confused.
I don't buy it. I don't buy into any of that stuff. Like, I
Yeah,
don't even
right.
listen. I don't watch. It doesn't affect the fight.
Yeah.
You know, and Israel said a lot of things about Brad and this and that and
Yeah.
whatever else, and it doesn't change the game plan. It
You know
doesn't
what,
change the
talking
fact that they're
for
going to
selling
fucking
tickets,
fight.
it's all
You,
it
you know what I
Exactly.
think could help those guys though, Eric, is because now that MMA has evolved, you know, you've got a lot of niche specialties within camps. You know, used to nobody had a nutritionist or
Right.
strength and conditioning coach. Now, you know, there's different departments for all that. Conor McGregor had the movement coach and all that. Some of these guys that want to trash talk, I think they could do well with a good comedic writer.
You're absolutely right.
And I'm being totally self-serving when I say that because I think I would like to be involved in one of these camps. You know, we broke down the.
So now you're marketing establishing the backpack guy.
Yes.
And now you're going to have the insult guy.
Well, that's right, because I got to diversify. You know, I have to be able to show what I can bring to camp.
Oh, I'll ask you later.
I don't know if word's getting around, if you've heard anything over there at Couture yet, Eric, but I have positioned myself as a backpack specialist within the world of MMA because, you know, when you see the weigh-ins, sometimes, you know, you recognize the guy who's bringing the backpack up. It's the head coach or something. Sometimes it's just a random guy.
Yeah.
So you're always like, how'd they settle on that guy?
I like it.
Yeah.
I like it. Like, so Dan Ige is one of my fighters in the UFC. His dad is a Master Chief in the Navy SEALs. One of the nicest guys. Like, just a good dude. So to me, that's a position to where take your dad. And he was like, what? I go, I don't give a shit. I'm going to corner you. That's a spot where you get to celebrate your dad. You know? So he took his dad up, and I have a great picture of him and his dad, walking up to the weigh-ins, and it was his first UFC fight ever in Boston. You're always going to remember, man, my dad was by me when I walked up there with him. You know, so in those situations, in those scenarios, hit this last fight in Chicago Dan had, it was his brother. His brother was in town. Take your brother. That's an experience that these guys might not ever get ever again. So it's good to share it.
Well, one of the things that, you know, Frank has tried to show at this point in his career that he is continually evolving, and now he is invested heavily in having a backpack specialist. So I was his backpack specialist for the Fedor fight, and I think it's because I put a lot of thought into this because the idea came to my head one day because I was watching somebody, and you know, the poor guy's doing his weight cut and he's dehydrated and all he needs is a Pedialyte, and here's a guy fumbling around for Pedialyte and he's got one flip-flop but he can't find the other one or whatever's going on. And I thought, you know, I'm a very organized person. I think I could do well with this. And do you know what James Horn said to me as one of Frank's sparring partners? I didn't tell you this at the Sugar Factory. He said this to me after the weigh-ins. He was, because, you know, the guys who've been around the camp for a long time, they like to give the new guys a hard time, you know, especially when I turn up with my backpack specialty. And James looks at me and he goes, you got it easy. You had it easy because, you know, Frank didn't have to deal with a big weight cut and he looked, you know, so good and everything, and you weren't having to, like, find the Pedialyte and all that. And I said, listen, sir, I said, just because I got a first-round knockout did not mean that I didn't train for a five-round fight. I'll have you know. I was prepared.
Ready to go.
Absolutely. So you got to be prepared.
Well,
it's good stuff, man. Sounds like everything's going very well over there at Couture.
Staying busy.
Yeah, it's I always like going over there. It's got a nice vibe to it.
Can't get this guy in to ever see me, but
yeah.
I even tell Danny, he's like, "Where's Frank at, man? Get his ass in here, dude."
Let's have him come in. Call me. I was up at Syndicate this morning.
Yeah.
So I mean, I'm traveling around.
I was up at Syndicate this morning.
I was there at 11:30, and that's my morning.
Okay. Yeah, I was gone by then.
Me and Bella aren't getting up at 7.
Yeah. I saw Ryan over there when Ryan Couture. Quickly, I'll tell you this story. Have I ever told you the story about when I had Ryan Couture on an MMA trivia night team that I did?
Yes.
You heard this?
Did you kill it?
Boy, this is This
no,
right
it's
here,
funny. This is hilarious. Talk about fucking shit up.
Yeah, just imagine Harry Chapin's Cats in the Cradle playing in the back of your head as I tell you this story. So it was for the Junkie Gathering, the thing that George and Goes do every year. So they had an MMA trivia night, and they had invited some media guys and some fighters and all this, and we were paired with just different listeners of the show. So my team, it was me, Ryan Couture, and then I think a couple of Junkie listeners or whatever. And everybody's real excited because they got Ryan on the team, and this is going to be a real asset to have a pro fighter involved in this and everything. And so it comes down to it, and we're kind of in the running for the finals and everything. And we get this question put in front of us, and the question is, after the last Affliction pay-per-view that they put on, when they put on those couple of pay-per-views, Fedor Emelianenko knocks out Andrei Arlovsky. Who did he call out in the ring? And so we're all sitting there and kind of drawing a blank. Ryan's sitting there drawing a blank. Time expires. Buzzer goes off.
Because I knew.
Yeah, buzzer goes off, and the
real quick. Do you know the answer?
Randy.
Yeah.
Well, it would have been
call
good.
out the old man.
It would have been good to have you on the team because after time expired and we all just sat there with blank looks on our face and we hear the announcer go, the correct answer is Randy Couture. We all look at Ryan and it's just like, yeah. It's like,
I forgot. How did Ryan respond?
There was just kind of no response. It was just like,
he is the best.
That's wow, huh? All right, okay.
He is the best. I give him so much shit at the front desk. I love it, because he can't say no to somebody on the phone. He can't be an asshole on the phone.
Yeah.
I'm like, man, hang the fucking phone up, dude. Some guy calls with a shower head that helps prevent concussions. He's trying to sell us this fucking shower head, and I'm like, Ryan, hang up the fucking phone on the guy. And Ryan's like, well, I mean, sir, it doesn't really sound like the best idea.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. And he's like, oh, well, we can't. We're not really in the market for $1,500 worth of shower heads. I'm like, hang the phone up, man. This guy's a fucking retard.
They won't stop talking.
Guys won't stop talking to you.
All right, I'll tell you what. Next time he's going to be up there, let us know. And maybe someone will place a call with a couple of very far-fetched product pitches that we could air.
But we got to get a GoPro on the other side.
Oh, yeah.
No, we got to be filming this.
Yeah, we'll have
it's
it all.
Daily.
Okay.
So now
this could be a funny fucking segment.
Oh, it's the best.
Hold on. But the listeners might warn him now, right?
No, he won't.
We're going to edit this.
Keep that to yourself, Film Fighting listeners. You're all in on it.
I love
all right.
Yeah, he's the best, man. He's all over the place up there.
That'll be funny. How can everybody follow you on social media, Eric? I know I do.
I'm just on Instagram mostly. So it's Eric_XCMMA. I keep most of my stuff on there. And, I'm not really into Facebook anymore. I can't really get on there. Twitter's cool, but just mostly that's where I stay on is my Instagram stuff.
Yep. So follow Eric. He's real active on there and posts a lot of behind-the-scenes stuff. And there's sometimes, the coaches are a lot of times the most interesting guys to follow because they get not only a lot of the behind-the-scenes stories, but you want to see the day-to-day life. I mean, this weekend was all about the big show here in Vegas. But you were saying before we got on the air that you're rivaling Frank for some of these countries you're going to where we have to. I was telling him before you got here, Frank, I said, some of these countries Frank goes to, we have to look them up to make sure they're not involved in a bloody civil war or something.
And they're taking his guns and knives away from the poor guy.
Yeah.
I head out to New York on Sunday with Lance Palmer.
Oh yeah.
He's his second round of the PFL. I'll be out there with him, and then get back home, and then it's gearing up for D1 for Hawaii. So for me right now has just been being able to juggle the time at home, being there for the kids and doing all that stuff too. But, I have to start saying no to some of these trips. I have to be able to say, hey man, I'm going to go on the trip with the wife or do something but this is it's a good problem to have. This is what we wanted to build.
Have you ever noticed that, speaking of, being away from the kids and the family and all that, have you ever noticed that John Morgan of MMA Junkie wears the same blue shirt at every fight? So this started getting talked about. Everybody started noticing everything. And he showed me a picture on his phone. I don't know if you'd seen this or not. He said, well, this is how it started. And he showed me a picture on his phone of it was a fight. And, you could see him in the background. And his son, who was probably like 2 or 3 at the time. Yeah.
Oh, I do remember him telling the story.
He was pointing to the screen.
That's all his dad.
That's my dad.
That's so awesome. Eli trains with us at the gym.
What?
Eli trains with us at Couture's.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, so
Oh,
John's
cool.
there a lot.
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Cool. He's, what kind of kids classes do you guys have?
We do cardio conditioning for the kids. We do wrestling. We do gi jiu-jitsu. We do the grappling classes as well. We do bang Muay Thai. So we have a lot for the kids.
You ever try to get John in there?
Yeah, I told him he actually has a
on it?
membership. John has a membership, so
you should get him involved. John and I were victims at the ill-fated UFC media training day that took place a few years back. The UFC.
Well, I forgot about that.
UFC had this bright idea, and it was one and done. It was the only time it ever happened.
Did you actually work out too?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I did it. It was it's years back. I mean, it's probably been 5 years ago now, something like that. They did it during International Fight Week, and the idea, the hook was that they would invite the media to the Tough Gym where the show was filmed, and they'd have fighters there, and the fighters would walk the media guys through different different martial arts disciplines. And I think the thing was slotted to last 90 minutes or something. And they had Daniel Cormier, they had Alan Belcher, Joe Benavidez, Mike Pyle, and they moved you around different stations. Pyle was doing the striking, Belcher was doing the jiu-jitsu, stuff like that. Cormier was doing the wrestling. All the fighters, they had barbecue and beer. That's not a staple of most training sessions, a big beer thing. So a lot of media guys turn out. But all the fighters, treated it lighthearted. Hey, we're just showing some techniques, having some fun with the guys. Everybody DC, right? Except Daniel Cormier, who apparently was he missed
that memo.
Yeah, right? He was misinformed. He thought this was like testing for AK's pro team or something. Yeah, and it was so insane. And you ended up with him last. He was in the cage doing the wrestling drills. There were guys throwing up. There were guys, they found a couple of guys hiding in the bathroom, like waiting for the whole thing to be over with. I mean, it was.
Oh, I love it.
He was killing them.
Man. No one just said, fuck this.
The thing is, I think a lot of guys had taken like a shuttle bus over from the
I mean, you could say
hotel
fuck this and sit there and watch, but like, I'm done.
Yeah, you could. But I mean, everybody wanted to try to, hang in there. It was fun. I loved doing it. I was hoping they were going to do it again. But I've teased Cormier about that in years past because I said, you single-handedly killed UFC Media Day. We were training day. Everybody was having a good time. Yeah. They were like, we are not doing this
What
anymore.
a great fight for that guy, though. I like Stipe. He's such a good dude. I really do. But, man, like, just unbelievable. Yeah. Unbelievable how – it's funny was because I watched Stipe. He trained at the gym this whole past week. And a lot of his game plan was to throw off the clinch, which you would imagine in a guy like Cormier. Where
I thought if you would have talked to me the night before, the day I bet on a guy, I was betting on Cormier.
Really?
Mm-hmm. I thought Cormier was going to out-wrestle him.
Yes.
Because, I fought Cormier.
Yes.
It was a wrestling match against the cage, and the guy's it's fucking hard to get
Head
him
under
off
your chin.
Yeah, he's shorter.
Yeah.
He knows how to fucking leverage. The guy's a fucking high-level, world-class wrestler. Well, I wasn't convinced about Miocic's wrestling. I'm like, I think he's a good wrestler.
Right.
I just don't think
not that level.
He's not that level. Yeah. I'm like, he's not even an All-American. You know what I mean? Like, he wasn't even a top 8 finisher, and now he's going against a guy who's a national champion who's gone on and represented the Olympic team. You know what I mean? Like, won the Olympic trials. You know what I mean? Like, holy shit, you know? So I thought he was going to get wrestled to death. If you'd have said, hey, it's going to be a first-round knockout, I'm like, all right, pick who it is. I'm like, Miocic caught him.
Yeah.
Miocic caught him.
Yeah.
But when I saw Daniel knock him out, I'm like, bro, never in a million years did I think it was going to go that way.
And didn't look very good all the way up until that point. Like Miocic was on it.
Yeah, I
was chopping
Miocic
him up
was winning at that point. Moving forward, caught him, pushed him against the cage himself. I was like, oh, you know what? What I thought was going to happen was that I suspect, and different people have different builds on how they get hit. Like, I hate getting hit by the ear now. Like, it fucking drives me nuts. You know what I mean? Like, 2 fights now that have been caught there, it fucks me up. You know what I mean? Hitting on the chin, I seem to be able to recover from that. Straight shots seem to be okay for me, right? But I think Miocic has a problem with the uppercut. Just the way he's built. Stefan Struve, who isn't really a hard puncher. Now, I don't want to get kneed by that motherfucker.
Right.
You know? But in general, if you're like, hey, if you said like a straight boxing match with Stefan Struve, I wouldn't even bat an eye at it. I'm like, yeah, no problem.
Yeah.
You say, hey, we're going to do a kickboxing match. I'm like, oh, dude, that guy's like 7 feet tall. I don't want to get hit with those fucking legs. You know what I mean? Like, blocking them is going to fucking hurt.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, shit. So when Stefan caught him with the uppercut like that, I'm like, wow, that was not. So I'm like, oh, if I was Daniel,
That's my angle.
I would come in, throw that uppercut. I didn't even think he would knock him out with it. I just figured it would hurt him.
And get underneath him.
And then now Miocic can't respect the takedown completely. Now he has to respect the striking too. And then all of a sudden, boom, he gets taken down and pounded out or just controlled and manipulated, you know?
Yeah, we've been doing that a lot with, especially with Gray, is we call it layers. I want him striking at layers. So he's throwing a 2 at the chest. You know, and it's not a throwaway too. Getting hit in the fucking sternum hurts like a motherfucker. But what it does is when you're dropping your butt and changing levels, they're changing levels along with it, expecting the takedown. So we're sitting 2s right in dudes' foreheads or right in the bridge of their nose, and then when they're popping right back up, we're right underneath them or that one level up.
Now the same movement level change
has validity.
Yeah, well, it now has multiple weapons to it.
100%.
Well, it's okay. You change levels. You're shooting. Well, not necessarily. It might be punching you. You can't just drop your hands and
exactly.
Sprawl, you know?
So collect that data, level change, and see what they do now.
Yeah.
You know?
No, I mean that's awesome.
I saw a meme thing that made me laugh today. There was a paparazzi picture of Cormier, like at the beach. You know, I guess he's taking vacay time or whatever with the family, and he's out in the water. You know, it's one of those long range things. Yeah. You know, they shot so it's kind of fuzzy. He's just out there in the water in his swim trunks. You know, his hands on his hips. He's got his whole dad bod going right. And the meme was, when you're on holiday, but none of the locals believe that you're the UFC champion in 2 different divisions.
I love it, man.
I saw somebody called him the daddest man on the planet.
Daddest man on the planet.
That's awesome.
That's great. How about Rosendo though? Remember Ro? Rosendo, the boxing coach, the little Rosendo.
Yeah.
And when Brock Lesnar came in and shoved Cormier, Rosendo comes behind Brock and fucking shoves Brock, and he's like, "What the fuck is this guy doing?"
And you know what? Honestly, that I mean, and you know, this is all like I think we all kind of have the same feeling here, but it's also one of those things too that I like that too in the sense that if this fight does end up happening with Brock Lesnar and Daniel Cormier, Brock Lesnar is going to get steamrolled by a guy that looks like he's the assistant coach on your kid's little league team. A year later,
people are still going to be more interested in Brock than DC.
Oh, yeah.
It's really our culture is so enamored with the look more than the performance. And if you have both, you're a superstar. Like Conor McGregor has a phenomenal body and he fucks people up, right? So complete package. But if you only can pick one, I think it's almost better to look dangerous than to be dangerous. Because look at Brock. We all know that Brock will get murdered by DC. But how much you want to bet that the odds are not going to be?
Once people start putting money on it.
People are going to sit there. I mean, there's going to be guys who are going to argue till they're blue in their face that Brock's going to kill him. I'm like, holy shit, are you serious?
Yeah.
Like, really? But because of Daniel Cormier, I mean, he walks in the room, you're like, that dude's the baddest guy on the fucking earth right now. You're like, that dude?
Yeah.
And then you look at Brock, you're like, oh, yeah, that's the baddest motherfucker. You know what I mean? Because the look.
What about, where's Kane been?
Is he still injured all the time?
Yeah, Cormier was asked about that at the post-fight press conference because obviously now,
he sparred with him. I saw Kane sparring a lot.
Yeah, no, he did train with him, and obviously the question is now with Cormier being the heavyweight champion, that's the whole reason he left the division to begin with because Kane got the heavyweight title, and he, he still says to this day he would never ever fight him. But that was a question, like, well, is he, and again, DC was kind of non-committal on it as far as like when, if he could return, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I think there's enough fights to make now because Kane's been out for so long, but he's just been the guy, in my opinion. It's like, holy fuck, this Cain Velasquez guy is the guy. Yeah.
I think he kind of also too suffers from popularity.
Right.
Because he also doesn't have that look.
Right.
That's true. Look how much now Ngannou had an impressive victory over Alistair, right?
Right.
But look at how much hype. I mean, people, Miocic was the underdog going into that fight, and I couldn't believe it.
Couldn't believe it.
Are you guys serious? Like, wow, you have a proven commodity versus an unproven commodity that we still don't know if they can wrestle or not. You know what I mean? And then sure enough, showed that he couldn't at the time. But because Ngannou looks like a fucking Marvel superhero, people just see like, oh, yeah, that's the heavyweight champ right there.
Yeah.
And Miocic is not obviously DC looking, but still, I don't think he strikes fear into people's hearts the way that Ngannou, when he walks into a room, you look at him, you're like, holy shit.
Yeah, this guy's going to be champ for 10 years.
Right.
You know?
Yeah. One of the things that we did do over International Fight Week with me doing all the UFC coverage and Frank being out of town, he was on assignment in the Bahamas, is we had the guys from Wimp to Warrior in studio. Now, if you don't know what this program is, Frank, your broadcasting partner in ACB, Brian Lacey, had done the Wimp to Warrior program where he actually ended up having a fully sanctioned amateur fight. And the deal is that these guys go out and they find people with little to no training experience, and you go through a 5-month program and then eventually end up in this amateur fight. So we had the guys in studio. I should say I had them in. And we're going to play that for you now. A couple of really nice guys, Richie and Nick, and you'll hear a little bit about what the program involves, how you can get involved, someone you know can get involved, and then we'll be back with you on the other side. Check this out from a couple of days ago. Joining us here in studio, speaking of a couple of international guests, are the guys behind Wimp to Warrior. You've heard us talk about this, both with Frank's commentary partner on ACB, Brian Lacey, who's gone through the program, and also Jessica Rose Clark, one of the favorites here on Phone Booth Fighting, who is a coach on Wimp to Warrior. Let's welcome to the studio, Richie Cranny is here, and also Nick Langton. Thanks for coming on, guys. How are you?
Thank you, Richard. It's good to be here,
Yeah, absolutely. Now, you guys are a couple of fellow Australians, just like Jesse, right? No?
I am.
Okay.
Yeah, not born and bred. I'm originally from London.
Oh, okay.
Moved to Australia in 2003.
Well, just lean up.
Yep,
yeah, there you go. Yeah, you're good. Yeah.
Yeah. So I've been there 15 years now.
Okay, right on. And that's where Wimp to Warrior started.
Yeah, I started off in Sydney 6 years ago.
All right. So we will do an in-depth explanation of what this program is, and really more importantly, how you as the average listener can get involved, because this is all about the average listener. This is all about the average guy or girl, not about the seasoned trained professional or even seasoned trained amateur for that matter. But first, let's just start with this question for either one or both of you. If you have to give the Wimp to Warrior synopsis to somebody in, a couple of sentences or 60 seconds or whatever, how do you explain it?
Well, we're a training program that I designed 6 years ago in Sydney, purely to try and break down the stigma involved with the sport. Not so much now, but back then. And show that mixed martial arts is for everyone. I always talk about the fact that growing up in England, I used to watch the Premiership, and I'd watch my favourite players on the TV, and then I'd want to go out and kick the ball around with my mates in the park. But you don't have that crossover with mixed martial arts. People don't watch down the pub or at home and they see these elite athletes. There's no switch in their brain that says, wow, I want to be like that. Maybe they do, but there's no way that those people can sit there and think, I could do that. There isn't. So the idea of Wimp to Warrior is to show that, you don't have to be an elite athlete to get something from this sport, because everyone thinks about UFC as basically the sport. We've heard it so many times, I do UFC.
Yeah, they confuse the brand with the sport.
And it's, we talk about MMA now. Oh, you mean UFC? So they just think of it as fighting. And that's really the tip of the iceberg with mixed martial arts. It really is. I mean, you train jiu-jitsu and there's just so much to give to people. And so the idea with Wimp to Warrior is I wanted to take someone and train them for 6 months and then allow them to see that pathway that a fighter feels and that confidence, etc., and then get them to compete at the end.
So someone comes in, they have little to no experience. You said, you were telling me off air, occasionally you'll get somebody with a little bit of grappling experience or something like that, but to speak of, it's pretty much clean slate, right? Yeah. So that person comes in and I say, okay, I want to sign up. I go to wimptowarrior.com. I find a gym in my area, and just as a frame of reference, this is an international endeavor. I mean, you guys have gyms from Australia to Ireland to right here in Vegas. We'll go over some of the names and affiliates in a minute, but I mean all names, top names that people have heard of, some of the biggest gyms in the world. But like, for example, you have Syndicate Mixed Martial Arts here in Vegas. So I I go on the website. I say I want to be involved. I find Syndicate. That's here in Vegas. Essentially, what's my next step? Where do I go from there?
Well, you go on the website. You click. You receive an email with information about the series. You know what the training times are, etc. What the commitment level is in terms of training, because you have to commit to this. It's not just. It's not like white collar boxing. You can train 2 evenings a week and jump in a ring after 6 weeks. This is 22 weeks, 5 mornings a week. This is a full-time camp. This is really transformational.
Yeah.
So they read the information, they fill in the application form, and then we send them details. We have a tryout for every series. And basically what that means is we always have more people applying than we can fit on the mat. So, and it's a process as well. We want to try and weed out people that aren't really that interested. Oh, you know, I'll fill this in at 11 o'clock at night after a beer.
Yeah.
They're not going to turn up.
Yeah, right.
So, I mean, this is a staggered process to get them to the point of starting the series. So then we invite all the people that have applied to a tryout, or sometimes we have 2 weekends. And then that's an opportunity for them to, the hardest thing at this point is for them to literally walk through the door, because that's what's preventing most people on the street from going to martial arts academies. I mean, we'll talk about this later on, but people don't feel comfortable walking through the doors because there's a stigma involved. Am I going to walk through the door? Am I going to get paired up with some guy and get beaten up? You know, am I going to be stared at? And it's the complete opposite in martial arts academies. So we invite them in, we get them on the mat, we introduce them to the coaches, and then we give them a workout. And then the coaches assess them, look at their work ethic to make sure that they want to be there. And then we do an assessment to make sure they're not going to be prone to injury. Just basic movement patterns, planes of movement. And if they're all good, which most people are, it's very rare that we find someone that we can't work with. If there's a certain issue, then strength coaches will work with that person over 22 weeks. And then once that's finished, then basically, unless there's some reason that the coaches don't want to work with a particular person, which is, again, very rare, they get invited to start the series, which is normally 2 or 3 weeks after tryouts.
Okay.
And then away they go. The journey begins.
Yeah. Okay. So let's say I pass that initial sort of physical assessment.
Sure.
Let me ask this. Now, it's open to men and women.
Absolutely.
Any age restrictions?
No, basically 18.
Yeah.
So because to compete in MMA, in most states and most countries, you have to be over 18. So we say 18, but we've had people in their 50s do it. A lot of people in their 50s.
I'm in. I can still make it. I can still come in under the cut. Okay.
Well, our eldest one is 57 at the moment. Right. We've had
Give me that guy, by the way. Wait, maybe, I don't know. Let me look at him first. I might not want him.
But yeah, I mean that's the whole point though. We want everyone to do this. We don't want it just 20-year-old guys. They're going to join the gym anyway.
Yeah.
It's people in their 30s, 40s, and even early 50s. Grandmothers. We have grandmothers doing this.
Yeah.
And they become addicts and they join the gym after, and now they're fans of the sport.
Right.
And now we're growing the sport at grassroots level. Yeah. And this is something MMA's never had.
Yeah.
It's either you're a fan of the sport, you watch it down the pub, or you watch it at home, and then you get the 20-year-old guys that want to fight. And that's it. There's no middle ground.
Yeah. Now, how do you, in terms of the pairing and making the abs, because what you do is it's a 22-week program, but then you actually get to fight at the end of it, right? You get, is it one fight that we train for?
Yes.
Is that what we do? Okay, so it's not like having to go, we don't do a whole tournament, nothing like that. It's just we're preparing for the one fight. So I can treat this like this is my main event. This is my headlining.
This is your bucket list.
Yeah, right.
You know, this is, the whole point with this as well is we have to get people mentally ready to step in the cage. We pride ourselves in getting people to a point where they're mentally strong enough to step in the cage in front of 1,000 people and compete with someone else.
Yeah.
Which is a huge undertaking, because the majority of the people that join this program are missing something. You know, they use it it was almost a reset button. We get a lot of people that have had trouble with drug abuse previously, suffer from anxiety, depression, but then, you know, that's not everyone, but most people that join, there's something that they're missing, they're lacking in their life. And the confidence, we've known from where we've run series, people find out about Winter Warrior and they see this transformation, and there's always a physical transformation that's easy to see. You know, see someone lost 30-40 kilos, you know, but it's that mental transformation. And I always say to people, if you can do this, there's nothing in your life you can't do. All those things that you put off in your life, changing your job, starting a business, leave someone you shouldn't be with, fuck, what's going to stop you? You just do it.
Yeah.
You know, it's that mental strength. So it's a process. We're training these people, not just physically, but mentally throughout this process, getting them ready to step in the cage at finale and compete.
Now, what about typical MMA fight tournament promotions, that sort of thing? We're only going to take into account gender and weight class because everybody's either a pro fighter or an amateur or whatever. In this situation, I'm going to think it's a little bit more like I would encounter maybe like in a jiu-jitsu tournament where we're going to be within this. You're going to take age into consideration within a certain range, maybe, but then also there's going to be more variation in not only experience level, but I would guess weight class too. I mean, do we have exact weight classes? Are people making weight, I guess?
Yes,
absolutely.
okay. It's a fully sanctioned amateur bout. They typically fight 3-minute rounds.
Yeah.
We work with the relevant sanctioning bodies in all our countries.
Yeah.
And we've also adopted, international best practice protocols around sanctioning these amateur bouts. So, yeah, people make weight classes.
Okay.
And the other thing is because the overwhelming majority of people are matched up from somebody within the series, very occasionally if you've got someone who we can't quite find a matchup, then there'll be somebody externally that can be sourced from our kind of our pool of existing sort of warrior talent or whatever. But as a consequence, the coaches get to observe these people in live rolling drills from sort of week 6 onwards, and they get a really good feel for what is the right matchup. So you could have a really fit, strong, athletic 40-year-old CrossFit junkie who does really well in it, and the best matchup for him might be a 27-year-old guy. And we've seen plenty of cases where the 40-year-old guy wins the fight too. So at the absolute core of Wimp to Warrior is integrity in matchmaking, because that's what makes people feel it's fair and it's safe.
Yeah.
And there's also a confidence that comes from stepping in the cage for your first amateur MMA fight is as Rich said, mentally, enormously challenging and invigorating, exciting. But there is that element of familiarity that the person you're facing off against, you've sparred with, you've rolled with, you've trained with.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Like a training partner.
Well, I always talk about the protective umbrella. Not only are these people joining a gym that we sanction with their coaches, but they're training with the people. So we know everyone that's on that mat knows the level. Everyone's the same. Yeah. Because no matter who you are, there's always that when you're being matched up against someone externally in an amateur fight, is the promoter just telling me because he wants me on the card that this guy isn't as experienced as, it's so common, you hear it all the time. You get told he's been training for 2 years in boxing, and you find out he's a blue belt in jiu-jitsu after the fight. Yeah, that doesn't happen with
and that makes the victory hopefully, but even just the experience, I would think that much more gratifying, because it's not a hollow victory. 100%. The person that you're matched up against is a worthy opponent, right? Yeah. Well, I mean, as you describe it, I actually like the sound of that even better than what I encounter in jiu-jitsu tournaments, because I don't know that person, so I mean we're relatively evenly matched or whatever age, belt level, all that, but at the same time it's not like I've trained with the person. It's not like I really know that. It's
and also in jiu-jitsu comps you can have a guy that's been a blue belt for 10 years.
Yeah, that's very true.
You just get your blue belt and you get matched up with him.
Yeah.
We really do pride ourselves on the matchups and making it as safe as we can, but I do want to stress that the Wimp to Warrior program isn't about the fight. It's just such a small, I always call it the icing on the cake, the celebration. It's the journey that people go through. Yeah. And I always tell people it really doesn't matter who gets their hand raised, because everyone leaves that cage a winner. Yeah. Because you've done it. You've finished this process. You've got up at 5:30 in the morning for 22 weeks. Yeah. And you've trained your ass off and you've transformed yourself. And this is just, you're going out to prove to all your friends and family and say, look what I've done. Yeah.
Now, where would you say the level of experience cutoff is? So, like, if I've had a couple of years of jiu-jitsu, no other training, I haven't trained striking, nothing like that, is that already too much, or can I still find a place?
what we tend to do, and the way I've always done it, and with the coaches.
By the way, Rich, I just want you to tell me I'm overqualified for something.
That's
damn it.
What belt color are you?
Yeah,
I reel everyone.
Yeah, I got a blue
worry.
belt. But yeah. No, it's funny. You know, I want to hear yes, I can still be in, but at the same time, I was like, it wouldn't be the worst thing in the world if somebody's like, no, you're too much of a badass to be involved in this. Yeah,
Look,
you go ahead.
The way it works is if we've got in the application form, people express what their background is.
Yeah, right.
So if we've got 3 or 4 guys that have blue belt in jiu-jitsu, let's just say, but no striking, then the coaches can say, you know, let's bring them in at tryouts. If you think they could be the same kind of weight class, have a conversation with them. Say, look, we're not guaranteed, because if the other blue belt gets injured, you're not getting matched up with one of the other guys.
Oh, right.
So, but some people, I mean, it's different in Sydney because there's 6 gyms in Sydney that run the program, so we've got hundreds of people that have been through this program, and lots of people want to keep competing. So if there's a blue belt, you know, it could be a fair matchup that someone that's coming in for their second fight in Winter Warrior, that's been training a year, can match them up. So,
so you can do it again.
Yeah,
You could come
absolutely.
back.
We have a lot of people do.
Yeah.
Nick being one of them, he's just signed up. He's just doing his second series.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're not all you're a client as well as
I did the series, which was Richie's second ever series in 2014.
Yeah.
Prior to that, I'd come on to co-found the business with Rich, invested in it, and you know, we sort of started to build out to certainly towards the dream that we wanted to achieve, which we're now, you know, sort of well on our way to doing. And you know, I did a lot of judo as a kid, and I was a martial arts fan, so I wanted to do it. And Rich sort of said it's a requirement. Like, you got to go through the process end to end, which I did in 2014, and I did that with married, 3 young sons. Really big corporate job in Australia and traveling all the time.
But
Kids have gone.
You got to have a supportive spouse. I'm sure. But at the same time, she's probably digging that. I mean, all of a sudden you got the warrior coming home every day, right?
Well, she was really obviously ultra supportive of me doing the program, and was importantly very supportive of my role in the business. And I actually left, you know, a 2-decade career in financial markets, only at the very end of 2016 to come on and run the commercial part of the business full time. So
that's cool though, because really that's kind of the mental strength to make the kind of leap you were just talking about. It's almost like you did it, but even within the company to make that jump, because you had a decision yourself to make like that, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's a good insight.
That's cool.
It is a good insight, because, you know, you can be comfortable, you're in a good career. I was at executive level, you're getting really well remunerated, but I'd been invested in Wimp to Warrior at that stage for a few years, and I just knew what it could be. And, you know, Rich obviously has always looked after all the coaching side, and as we wanted to scale out and grow, you know, there was clear benefits of saying, you know, we've been business partners for 5 years now, and we agree on 90% of stuff, like we really do. But
75.
Well, he goes quiet for a couple of days and then comes back to me. But but what we do find is we've got a brilliant demarcation between who does what, right? So I agree that, you know, any of the calls around, you know, the coaching, the program, the execution of it, ultimately he's got right of veto on everything. And he's given me the same with respect to the commercials. Now, we talk about everything together, and no one's ever had to use the right of veto, which is obviously what you want in a proper, good, strong business relationship. But it just means we're not overlapping or treading on each other's toes. But we're both equally passionate about the growth of the business, and even more so than the growth of the business, the growth of the sector. Yeah, you know, getting average people, normal, regular folk who would never otherwise darken the doorway of a martial arts academy or a fight gym, and instead of spending their consumer dollars in, you know, chain gyms and, you know, pretty average PTs or whatever. Imagine if they all said, well, I actually feel safe and secure enough. I've learned enough about this through this brand and this company that I want to go in and spend my marginal dollars, my fitness dollars, here in Syndicate. Like we were just out at Syndicate today, and you go in there, you go, this is an incredible gym. Like it's a beautiful facility, and you think, given the population in Las Vegas, I mean, it should be absolutely heaving, you know. And so, I think something over time that we really talk about a lot is that, in the fullness of time, if we're really successful, many, many more people around the world will walk into martial arts academies and fight gyms as a consequence of the education program we go through, the growth of our business and our brand.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. Well, actually, before we go any further, I should say one thing I'm sure there was no debate about was bringing on Gambaro Fightwear and David Hickey, who was actually our introduction to you guys. David reached out to me from Gambaro. Gambaro, of course, sponsored Frank in his last fight, and we were all wearing the Gambaro stuff. Frank wore the trunks, and in fact, I had a whole outfit too. My job was to be the backpack man for this fight. So the weigh-ins where that random guy, you're like
holding the socks. And
sometimes you know who the guy is, right? He's like a famous coach, and then sometimes you're like, who's that guy? Well, I was the mystery guest. I had the backpack, but I had my whole Gambaro setup as well. But I guess case to point, whether it be clothing companies like that or big gyms coming on like that, because you guys really have big names involved in this. I mean, run a few of you mentioned Syndicate, but just these are all going to be top flight gyms that fight fans have heard of. Just rattle off a few.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it all started, I mean, like I say, we started in Australia. Yeah. So I'll give you the kind of the time scale.
Yeah.
And then I was very protective of the brand to start with. It's something that you give this program to the wrong gym with unqualified coaches, which there are people out there that claim they're MMA coaches. Yeah. Things can go wrong. So it was a slow process to start. My coach, a guy called Lee Alip, who I trained under for years in London, he was the first international series. That run amazingly. We had a couple other series kick off in Australia, as well as my Sydney one in Melbourne and Brisbane. And then I got to speak to John Kavanagh. So one of his coaches that owned an SPG gym in Cork in south of Ireland heard about us and mentioned to John, and me and John got chatting. And first of all, he was a bit sceptical. I mean, this was the height of the McGregor period, 3 years ago. He was just getting inundated with offers.
Oh, right, sure.
And he was like, so he kind of put it on the back burner for a few weeks. Then we got in touch again, and then he realised that this wasn't just some white collar boxing. That this was literally going to bring new people into the gym and really have a strong influence on people's lives. So he was the first gym, the major gym, to come on board, and and it was the John Kavanagh effect, really. I mean, he's got so many contacts, so we brought him in as our European development director to the business, and basically I said to him, you tell me what gyms in Europe that you trust, and I'll approach them. And that's how we started to build out in Europe and through the UK and Ireland. I mean, we've got there's 4 gyms in Ireland, all SPGs that run the series there. We've got in Scotland, in the UK. We're about to kick off in Portugal later on in the year. That's going to be our first mainland gym in Europe. But there's plenty more build out that's going to be happening later on in the year. And then Syndicate came on board, and SPG Portland, and then Timo Yama. They're kicking off later on as well. They come on, and we're waiting. We've got this big kickoff in September, October. For our US gyms. And then it was a case of John recommending some people. I mean, these are all gyms that everyone knows anyway.
Yeah, I mean, I'm also looking at El Nino Training Center, Gil Melendez's place, AKA is on there as well. And then, I mean, country-wise, you mentioned a few there, but also Canada. You got TriStar up there.
TriStar's just started, actually.
Right?
Okay,
And
they're having a great time up there.
Yeah, I mean, this is, I mean, again, you think about just the entree into being able to go into some of these gyms and train in there.
I mean, also you've got Chris Weidman's gym with Ray Longo in New York as well. I mean, if set aside the our main target, which is bringing new people into the sport. If you're an MMA fan, you've been watching the sport for a while, and there's not really that opportunity to get into the sport. You're just watching it on TV, but and you hear that you're in New York or in Long Island, and you hear that this program is running. You know, Ray Longo's could be on the mat, Chris Weidman's could be on the mat. This is stuff that dreams are made of. They're getting to live the life of a fighter for 22 weeks and then step in the cage. It's unbelievable.
Well, it also really speaks to the integrity of your program, because this is also the kind of thing that if this were not quality and this were not done on the up and up, no gym would have anything to do with it. Like it's either or. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is either, if it's done right, it's the greatest idea ever. If it were done wrong, this would be nothing anybody would want to touch. So obviously the fact that you've got these folks on board, they're having very positive experiences with it. So tell me, going back to, just because I'm trying as best I can to sort of speak through the process of the typical guy or even girl for that matter who would come through. So when we do that 22 weeks, let's say I have no experience in anything, do we break it up? Is there like jiu-jitsu day?
Yes.
Is there striking day? That sort of thing?
So the program is designed, it's in basically 2 halves. So the first 10 weeks is what I personally call like the bulletproof section. So the idea is before they start doing any real contact, we have to make them as strong and as flexible as possible, and make them to a point where they can absorb contact. Yeah, because a vast majority of the people that sign up for Wimp Warrior have either done nothing in their life or since they were at school. They're very deconditioned. You know, you start rolling with these people, they're just going to fall apart after the first few weeks. So the program is really designed to, the first 10 weeks, they're learning all the basic movements of MMA. You teach them all the movements, sprawling, hip escapes, bridging, all the stuff on the ground, basic footwork, basic punching, hitting pads, etc., and movement. And then sort of week 4, around about week 6, you start adding some very light contact stuff, you know, just touch sparring, just getting the eye involved, etc. And then once they get to week 10, they get a week's break. And they come into, and then we call it the fight camp phase, and that's when they start their sparring and their contact drills. But we have, so the first 10 weeks is more of MMA, so they're learning all the facets of MMA and combined, and then when they get into fight camp, they have a specific wrestling day, they have a grappling day, they have a striking day, and then their wrestling day, strength conditioning day. So the program is mapped out very well. We basically, I call it the Bible, and I give the coaches the Bible, and it talks about what I've personally done for 6 years and how it's been very successful on my end. I'm not there to tell coaches how to coach, because we have elite coaches, but this is the framework. This is what works with me, and most coaches embrace it, because it's like, I can work with this and do my kind of thing, you know. They can just add their nuance to it, because I don't want every series to run exactly the same. I want them to have the TriStar experience. I want them to have the AK experience. I want them to have the SPG, you know. But we have a framework the coaches run to. This is a set program. This works. Follow this and do your thing on top, and that's the way. I would guess too that a couple of other benefits. You know, we talk about this on the show, because obviously Frank and I are at opposite ends of the experience level, right? But at the same time, I think that's one of the nice things about the show, because of course we talk about professional fighting on the elite level, but at the same time we talk about training for practical purposes. And the thing that because I got started late, you know, relatively late. It's not like I was doing this as a teenager or even in my 20s or whatever. But I always tell people that the main reason that I wanted to do it, to get involved in training, was to be able to better appreciate what I was seeing as I covered it. And I say, for fight fans, just you 100%. Will get, it'll be like it's like watching something in 3D as opposed to, you know, standard definition. So one, it will greatly enhance your enjoyment and understanding of what you're watching when you're watching fights. Second, self-defense. Because the thing about it is, for me, I realized, and it, you know, you go into it, and I'm imagining this would be like, you know, you talk about that bulletproof period where you just you stick it out, kind of feel like you're getting your ass kicked every day, but you just stick with it, and all of a sudden when it clicks, I realized that what that gave me in life, and I'm repeating myself because our listeners have heard me say this many times, but what it gave me was a sense of confidence where, and I'm not a guy who's going out looking for fights or, you know, in the alley or whatever, but it gave me a sense of, I always have a plan. I'm never going to get caught
panicked and, oh my gosh, what do I do?
Yeah.
And there's a sense of there's a confidence there.
Yeah.
So I'm guessing, in addition to
100%.
some of these experiences, you're going to pull stuff like that coming out of this too.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, and the way I always talk about, and just going back to your point, that educating people, educating fans in the sport. You know, it's all very well watching, and as you know, you go to these some of these big shows, and you get all the couch potatoes that normally watch it, and they just come along, and you hear them booing when there's anything happening.
That's the one you get. Yeah,
they're on the fence and they're booing because they have no
right.
understanding of what fence work is.
Yes.
Some of the toughest stuff you do, and caught in position. But if you can imagine, if let's just say that we have an arena that's full of people that have trained, the response would be so different.
Yeah.
You know, so the educational part is a huge part of what we're trying to bring into the sport. But going back to the self-defense thing as well, the chances of you actually ever getting assaulted so minuscule now, because you probably don't even realize it, but you walk differently.
Yeah.
You look around the room differently. You're confident. And we know that from experience, and I've run self-defense courses for years, women and all sorts of things in the UK, is the first thing you teach them is how to look confident. And it's hard when it's almost faked until they get that confidence through training. But from the early stage, you always walk, you're looking around. These are all the things that you get taught in martial arts without even knowing it. And they're the things that prevent these things happening to you in the first place.
That's a great point. And I've never actually heard it put exactly like that, where you talk about the way you're carrying yourself different and you're walking different. But that's so true, because I sort of describe it to people this way, like, you know, you're a bigger guy than me. Prior to training, your natural response would be, this. Post-training, I want to neutralize your size advantage. I'm going to try to get on you. I'm going to try to stick to you, to get you to the ground, to neutralize that. And you're right, that probably carries over just in
Your
general
body language,
general demeanor.
I've been in the sport for many years, and I can look around the room. And not physically. I mean, you see a guy with collie ears and stuff. Obviously, they wrestle or whatever. But you can tell people just the way they stand and the way they engage with people. That, you know, that they're not necessarily from martial arts, but there's a confidence in them. You know, and they're the people that don't get some guy trying to start a fight, or a woman that gets her bag snatched. The woman that's walking down the road looking at the floor, and they're the ones that are going to get victimized. They're the one that someone's going to come and grab them and nick their bag.
No, it's a great point. I mean, I think about just these, you know, everyday examples. I mean, it's like even my girlfriend, who doesn't train, but, you know, I've shown her enough self-defense. Even just the fact that if somebody comes up from behind you and tries to choke you, you want to turn into them. You know, if you know what to do once you do that, because the chances, the vast majority of times, they're not going to know what you're doing. What is this person turning into me? Next thing you know, they're the one getting choked. So, or at least you can, stave it off until people realize what's happening and just help arrive. So we're covering a lot of ground there, but it just goes to show that, there's a lot to be derived from this. Obviously, as you said, far apart from just getting your hand raised in something, the ability to go through that
Richard,
program.
something that was talking about earlier, but and it's not at the core of what we're trying to do. We're genuinely focused on getting as many people who wouldn't put martial arts academies, fight gyms on their potential palette of options of. But in saying that, when you look at the gyms that are licensed to run our program, when you're living in Montreal, you can train in TriStar, and we're seeing SBG Dublin. Obviously we've got huge series coming up here in September. If you're in the Bay Area,
Vegas is September, by the way.
No, Vegas starts on Monday.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah,
it's
and
not too late.
Yeah. Sorry to say, I got boy. All right,
but it really is. There is also an element of the ultimate MMA fantasy camp. You can go into these gyms and train, and this isn't MMA light. This is, having done the program before, doing it again. It's a deep immersion program, and what comes from that is obviously some pretty profound change. But to Rich's point as well, we know that people who go through it are just far more educated MMA consumers. Number one, if they weren't an MMA fan when they started, they're not missing any shows thereafter. And it's, as I say, it's not just it's UFC, Bellator and that, but then they're going and buying tickets to local regional shows. Then they're supporting amateur events. Then they're buying gear. So what we know that if we can continue to harvest fans into the ecosystem, everyone attached to mixed martial arts benefits, and that's our mission. We just want to keep growing this population of people. But of course, we would love the person, the couch potato, the critic, the person who sits on Twitter, who hasn't trained, who hasn't done it, who fires off a disrespectful tweet to a fighter after what they consider a lackluster performance, and just perhaps have more respect. And going through this program would fundamentally change their views. And you see fighters talk about it all the time. You know, if some of these fans had walked in my shoes, well, we're here to provide that. If there's any fans out there listening who want to do it, this is the ultimate fantasy camp bucket list experience.
Yeah. Now, so as far as practical aspects of going through this and signing up, I mean, 22. You said 22 weeks, right?
Yep.
So we're talking about that's right about 5 months, I guess. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. So 5 months, 5 days a week. I mean, this is going to be serious training. On the one hand, I would think this is not going to be super cheap. At the same time, I'm guessing everybody that does it is not a multimillionaire. So, I mean, how does that sort of thing work?
Look, we've got. I mean, it's not cheap, but it's great value.
Yeah.
So if you sort of break it down, per session, people are getting 100+ sessions, right? So pretty much our programs run across the world at pretty much an identical price point relative to currency. So circa $2,000 Aussie is circa $1,600 US is whatever in euros and whatever in Great British pounds. So it's all
That's way less than I thought you were going to say.
Yeah.
Because again, if you break that down, I mean, you're talking about at a reputable gym, you're going to be talking about $150 to $200 a month.
Yeah.
Anyway, just for regular class.
Yeah,
so
correct.
I mean, right there, that's $1,000. Just for being in the regular classes or whatever.
absolutely.
But now you're talking about that number of sessions.
Yeah, correct.
Tailored training, that's the biggest thing. I mean, if you go to a gym and just train, which is amazing, that's the whole point. We want people to do this, but there's no real end goal at that point. You're training, you might be training to get your next belt, etc. But you jump into Wimp Warrior, every single person on that mat in that group, 22 weeks, has the same goal, and you rise together.
Yeah.
And it's an incredible journey. And that's the big difference. And you look at it's around about 110 tailored training programs. You get all your nutritional advice. You get a training uniform which you compete in. You get all your kit, gloves, shins, 2 sets of gloves, as well as these amazing coaches.
The coaches. Yeah.
And then you get this amazing guaranteed. I mean, if you get there with pretty much guaranteed a matchup, and you get to show this off to your friends and family. It's something you tell your kids about, your grandkids. I fought.
Because you've got, and I mentioned Jessie earlier, but she's not alone. You've got, professional fighters involved in the coaching process. Now, I'm guessing this would have to be done. You mentioned an early morning program. It's got to be done early because, one, people have jobs and stuff that they can't interrupt, but then also at the gyms, they're committing to an additional chunk of program that they don't already provide, which is also reassuring because it's not just a commitment from the people in the program, it's also a commitment from the gym. It's not like the gym can just be like, we'll try this, we'll see what happens. I mean, they're making a big commitment here.
Well, we have in Sydney, look, we've started to realise as we go into different demographics, you kind of have to tune the training time. So for instance, Vegas kicks off later than we would normally do in Australia because, people tend to stay up later and they work in the entertainment industry, etc. Whereas Sydney, our training sessions tend to be 5:30 in the morning until 7 a.m. And the reason I always started that is because I was a gym owner when I started this program. I had no room on my mats to commit 22 weeks in the evenings. The classes are full. There's no mat space. Whereas as a gym owner, I knew that my mats are sitting there doing nothing in the mornings. It's dead space. I'm paying rent on those mats, on that area, 200 square meters every year, and it's doing nothing for my bottom line. So would I like to bring 25, 30 new people in and train them when there's no other people on that mat? Absolutely.
Yeah.
Chances are they're going to become members as well. The gym makes a lot of money running the program from the training fees, etc. The coaches get new work. Being a fight coach, there's, it's not a full-time gig. This is an opportunity for trainers to earn a lot more money. You know? So it's a real win-win. And we have a hashtag in Australia. We kind of share the places that do the early morning sessions that whilst you were sleeping. And that's what our program is,
Oh, right,
whilst you're sleeping, I'm becoming a warrior. I'm changing my life. So the option is I just get my ass out of bed a little bit earlier.
Yeah.
That's the commitment.
What this sounds just in that sense a little bit like to me in terms of the early morning, the time commitment, and everything is my girlfriend has run marathons. She's a runner, which I envy because I may train jiu-jitsu, but that running, man, it's funny. I've mentioned that at our gym before, and I was telling one of our black belts, I'm like, she runs marathons, and he looked at me, he goes, I don't run that far unless it's an emergency, But the reason I bring that up is because especially if you train for a marathon, you got that early morning commitment and things like that. And boy, just the discipline in and of itself of doing that.
That makes you tougher.
For sure.
And I talk about this on the program. I say to people at the beginning, every time your alarm clock goes off at 4:30 or 5 a.m. and you swing your legs out of bed, you get mentally stronger. It's a process. Anyone can just go and train after work. You won't go every day. Life gets in the way, commitments, overtime, family events, but you get your ass out of bed early. You get stronger every day, and then you're just starting your day early. That's all. And you are fueled for the rest of your day. We hear it all the time, like managers or business owners that have someone on Winter Warrior, they just come in, they're just switched on from the second they walk through the door. They're pumped full of endorphins, they're focused, because they've just trained their ass off for 90 minutes.
Yeah, they've had a win at the very start of the day. They've had a win. And I mean, when I first did the program in 2014, I was traveling a lot domestically, a bit internationally for work. I was running a business looking after a few hundred people, and I had to really obviously do some planning and mapping to make sure I could make all the sessions or as many as possible. But when I look back at it and you think, well, if I could find the time to do that with, married, 3 kids, a really big job and a lot of travel. Like there were some days I was finishing training and going straight to the airport, showering at the lounge, the airline lounge, flying away for the day, getting back late at night, drive home, go to bed, wake up, get the alarm in the morning. But you do know. You go, oh, well, actually, I'm doing something special. I'm making active decisions.
You're the only guy in the Admirals Club walking in a gi.
walking in with. I was running a big private wealth business in Australia at the time, and I remember one time, later in the program, going in and actually having a conversation as I stood up to present to a bunch of really wealthy clients, talking about philanthropy and a whole bunch of things, and I had a shiner. And which was cause for a little bit of mirth. And look, I chose to raise money for a charity at the time I did it, which was even speaking to back to then with the job I had and the profile I had, I felt a bit self-conscious that people would judge me around doing MMA. And even in the last 4 years, it's changed so much. But I raised money, obviously, because I wanted to, but B, I felt that was almost a way to validate it's okay to do this if you're going to do that, and that was... The sport has continued to grow and evolve, and as Rich said, now we've got back in Sydney, various series, 35-40% of the intake are women, and we're getting young women, mums in their 40s, all sorts.
Very cool. The website is wimptowarrior.com, wimp, the number 2, warrior.com.
Correct.
You can find the gym in your area, in your country, in your area of said country. And I assume also, like, if sponsors, like, I mentioned Gambaru earlier, the sponsors want to get involved, they can contact you through that as well, right?
Absolutely, they can. And people who live in an area, we're obviously starting a pretty deliberate growth path in North America. The business is, we're completing an initial funding round now to fund a lot of our growth. And, what we also want to hear from, if there's great gyms in certain parts of North America that we're not aware of, email us. Tell us. Sure. Tell us, if there's coaches, other people listening. We tend to get approaches now every week. You know, 2 or 3 gyms, you know, different places around the world say, look, this looks amazing. And because we've been obviously putting out a lot of content over the years, we mentioned our you know, our YouTube channel and putting out our new series, which is called Wimp to Warrior Uncovered. We were talking about off air the whole notion of it when Rich and I were talking about showcasing our coaches and our gyms and taking. We spend our money at a head office level to put camera crews in there and take episodes to uncover the stories of the human beings that are doing it, the regular people. The uncover the stories of the coaches and what's brought them to a life of martial arts, and uncover these gems of facilities that are, you know, some people would drive past and just never know is there. So hence the reason we called it Uncovered, and we've you know, that's been really well received too.
Yeah,
so.
I'm glad you mentioned that, because if you look at the Went to Warrior clips on YouTube, I mean, this stuff is high quality to the point. I mean, this looks like you're on your own episode of Embedded, or, you know, Countdown to UFC or something like that, and that is cool because, one, obviously, I'm sure that is a great testimonial of a marketing tool for you guys, so that people can see the quality of the product, but also for the competitor involved. Talk about the ultimate souvenir, you know, the ultimate time capsule of your experience, because that would be my other thought, is that I'll just tell these stories, but I'd never really be able to show. But with the quality of what you put on, you've got amazing video.
They share that on Facebook. You know, we say when it's time, we give them the placeholder. I mean, the group of people I've started training with in a series back in Sydney, they already know Saturday the 1st of December at North's Leagues in Camray, which is a, you know, really good combat sports venue in Sydney, holds sort of 600 to 700 people if it's sold out. We sell our venues out all the time. I mean, I had my first amateur MMA fight at you know, at Richie's second series, and that was a record.
1,800 people.
Oh, so okay, so this is in a venue. It's not just in a gym
no.
as far as the fight.
No.
They get the full Saturday night.
Oh, that's awesome.
Big time fight experience.
Yes.
We have their walkout. We want them to have the experience of a mini UFC Bellator event.
Sure.
We have the screens.
Very cool.
We have the walkout music, the lights. They get the full package.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Oh, that is amazing.
Yeah.
That is.
You can sign up right there.
Yeah, that is really amazing. WimpToWarrior.com.
You know, we're messaging Jessie after this to say.
Oh yeah, she'll put the screws to me. She will. Well, I'll tell you something. I may not be I don't know that I can't claim that I will be your greatest ever warrior, but I may very well have one of the best video episodes when you show me at my job, because you'll show me trying to referee a fight between prostitutes, and then I will begin to talk about how after Wimp to Warrior, it gave me the skills, the reasoning skills. I listen. Sometimes sometimes when I talk to people about my different jobs, I say when I'm not breaking down fights between mixed martial artists, I'm refereeing fights between prostitutes, and sometimes the latter is more competitive than the former. It just depends on the day.
I can imagine. They're not keeping their nails quite as trimmed either, are they?
No, sometimes it gets real heated in there. Yep, it sure does. This has been fascinating, guys. I really appreciate you spending so much time with us. By the way, Frank has texted me. Now, let me just share the text here. I said at the beginning. Okay, he says, still waiting on a cab to get back to my hotel. Sorry, shit signal out here. Would have given more heads up. So what we're going to have to do, if you guys don't mind, maybe coming back on with us.
We would love to.
Yeah. Let's do it when Frank's here.
100%.
And then I think that might be the good way, too, to get the update on.
Well, we want to come out. We're going to come and check how our series is obviously
excellent. Yeah.
Coming along in at Syndicate and see how the training's going for you, Richard. So.
Yeah.
I'll see you on the mat.
I tell you something funny. You know, this actually ties into Fight Week this week. Years back, of course, you know, we have the UFC gym where they do Ultimate Fighter here in town. Yeah. And so a couple years back, the UFC had this idea to have media training day during during International Fight Week. Really? Yeah. So I was excited to see this. I mean, the International Fight Week, it's like, you know, from all week long, there's stuff going on. So they decided they were going to do this. So they opened it up to the media. And, you know, the thing about I'll paint with a broad enough brush to say, I don't think my media brethren would be upset with me saying that just, top to bottom, there's not a whole lot of training that goes on Media Row. There is some, you know, but you don't have to put in much training to really kind of call yourself the Hicks and Gracie of Media Row. You know what I mean? So, but I was excited even at my little level to get to do this because it was big coaches. I mean, we had Daniel Cormier in there. We had Joe Benavidez, Alan Belcher, I remember. Mike Pyle was there. So it was cool. We were going to get a couple hours of training with these guys. Yeah. Well, all the media guys show up, or at least the ones who wanted to participate. And all the fighters, and they had us in different stations. So like Belcher and Benavidez, I think were doing jiu-jitsu. Mike Pyle was doing striking. Cormier was doing wrestling. And you move from station to station to station. All the fighters were treating this like an exhibition. We're just going to teach you a few things. All the fighters except for Daniel Cormier, who appeared to be treating this
like, as it gets good.
This was.
I remember that article.
Yeah, this was a hardcore camp. Exactly. He remembers. What you wrote about it. So as the thing went on, and you ended up, he was the last station in the cage doing wrestling drills and stuff like that. And they had media guys, like, there were a couple of guys hiding in the bathroom waiting for the thing to be over with. Guys were getting sick, it wasn't. And so I always tell Daniel that I think he single-handedly killed media training day because they never did it after that, But it reminds me a little bit of that. Because this would be, man, it's really appealing. I mean, the idea is really alluring. I tell you, my biggest thing would be, now what if, okay, because let me ask you this. This is a practical concern for myself. Yeah, because I do stand-up comedy dates. So there are days where I'm out. I mean, you can't just let me only show up half the time, but where do we, do we have a little bit of a...
There is wiggle room.
How do we figure that? Yeah.
We have people that miss training for whatever reason. And for instance... we have a policy, if you miss training, you have to upload. We have forums for each series. You have to do 100 sprawls, video it, put it up. And then when you come back, you speak to the coaches, and if there's anything specific that you've missed out on, they can kind of give you a bit of a catch-up.
Okay, right.
But, I mean, obviously, if you're missing half the series, you're not going to fight because you're not going to be up to the standard. But there's always options to come back and do a makeup class in the evening or see one of the coaches, stay behind on one of the other sessions. We understand at 22 weeks to say that you're going to be there every single session, although we want people to. Life gets in the way. So for you, my friend, we can work around it.
Okay, cool.
And I will be there Monday morning, first day of training, and I'll be seeing you on the mat, no doubt.
Oh, man, you guys, I got a lot to think about tonight.
Think of the insight you'd have.
Yeah.
I'd love it. No, I'd totally love it. You don't have to convince me on that part.
Think in December, your song hits the speakers and you walk out in front of a sold-out venue here in Vegas.
Can Frank corner me? Is that
absolutely
allowed? Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I'm not going to argue with Frank.
Okay. All right.
No,
I'm not stupid.
Frank,
All right. Well, listen, guys, thank you so much, Richie and Nick. WimpToWarrior.com is the website. And like I said, just no matter where in the world you're at, you should take a look at the website and see if there's a place near you. So thanks for coming in, guys.
You're welcome.
And,
thank you. Thanks
look forward to staying in touch. All right.
Thanks Richard. Cheers.
All right. Well, you heard the interview, so ask me if Richie was persuasive enough to get me to sign up.
Take it. You bait it in.
You already know the answer, sir, but you played it off perfectly. The reason you know the answer is because you have promised to corner me. Because yes, I'm going to do it.
And only contingency I have on the cornering.
Okay.
I get to be the backpack guy.
Absolutely, you have to be the backpack guy. Yeah,
I get to be the backpack guy.
Yeah,
full of Pedialyte.
Yeah,
yeah.
No, as disorganized as you are,
you're fucked.
Yeah, we're gonna have a real ugly moment on the scale if I'm like, where's that?
Colt 45.
Yeah,
motherfucker.
Yeah,
I might actually pull it out. Chelsea, there's Gatorade.
Yeah, you're good, bro.
I couldn't find nothing else to put it in.
Well, after the weigh-in, we'll be out in the parking lot going, Frank, where are the keys? You know, I don't know. Go through the bag again. I don't know what you did here.
I'm better now that I carry a satchel.
There you go.
Yeah.
That's actually why, like, people make fun of me. They go, "Hey, did you carry a purse?" I'm like, "Bro, this has saved my life."
Right.
Since the last one, I think it's probably been 6 years now that I carry a purse. But up until that point, man, there's times I've misplaced firearms. You know what I mean? Like when I was younger, I'm like sitting there going,
where did I put that?
Where's
fucking
my
block?
fucking? Yeah, I'm like, God damn it, you know what I mean? And you know, I'm like, fuck, you know. And then I'm searching because now I'm fucking in a panic.
Yeah.
There's a gun I can't handle that's not accounted for. You know what I mean? Now never happens. Keys, everything's inside the backpack.
We had a funny moment. It's probably been a year and a half ago now on the podcast, but we were taping at Frank's house, and we were particularly involved in this conversation about some of Frank's fights. I mean, you know, the limb breaks, these legendary wins, the Nogueira comeback, all this kind of stuff. Right in that moment, and Frank's wife comes right in the studio, right in the middle of taping, and she's like, "Where are the keys? I've got to get the kids to practice. What the hell?" And Frank immediately goes to, "I don't know. Hold on. Let me see. I thought I put him." "Well, you thought wrong because we're..." And it was like, boy, I'm glad Frank never had to face Mrs. Mir in the cage, because this would not have gone very well.
And I tell people that all the time. Okay, one time we got rear-ended, right? I was turning a corner, and a guy came, or it was a lady, came up and hit us, and because she was like in the emergency lane, trying to pass people, and I didn't see her, so I went to go into the off, you know, where you take a right-hand turn. So I'm in the right lane, but the shoulder, I'm going off in the shoulder to turn into a shopping center, and this chick's flying through like 45 miles an hour, and, you know, traffic is slow, so she's trying to cut through. So because of the way she hits me, Jennifer slams her face against the window, has a black eye. So, but Bella had an event for softball. So it was one of those things where, like, you know, she had to go to the doctor, you know, to get checked out, x-ray her spine, you know, neck, make sure she's fine. But it's like, okay, well, her friend Liz picked her up and took her to the hospital, and I took Bella to the to her event, pitch, hit, run type competition.
And Bella was in the car with the...
No, Bella was. It was just me and Jennifer. We were going to go rent an RV for a family trip. Ronan was in the back seat, but limber, tiny, no injured. I wasn't injured either. Like, I mean, everybody, she was screaming, but, you know, it's weird. In fact, actually, did I talk to you about that? I was kind of in shock because here she slammed her face and she started obviously very emotional, freaking out. And like, I found out, you know, people are like, "Hey, how do you handle shitty situations?" I'm like, I go fucking dead tone on emotion. Like, I just sit there and go, "Hey, okay, no, seriously." I'm like, I grabbed her neck, or like, "No, look, your face is not cut. Your neck might be injured. Hold your head till I get back." I looked in the back seat, and there's my son. I love my son more than anything in the world, and I'm just like, he's like looking at me shocked, and I start grabbing his legs, and I'm just pulling. I'm just checking. I'm like, "Okay, look, I think he's fine. We'll check in." Got out of the car, assess the situation, and it was like to the point where I'm like, if a police officer pulls up, they're probably gonna think I'm high or something, because I'm so like monotone in the moment. You know, I'm like, okay, what do I have to do? And then afterwards, obviously, I was upset about it. But anyways, to cut to the point of the story, so she goes to the hospital, and they're checking her out, and I find about it secondhand. They say, "Oh, you know, they see the black eye. They're like, okay, did an MRI, your spine's fine, but we have to ask this, you know,
did this happen?
Do you feel safe at home?"
Yeah, exactly.
That was the question, right? And so her friend Liz, who knows her very well, starts laughing. She's all, "Yeah, no, you don't have nothing to worry about." And I was like, "Did you tell the doctor that hey, look, honestly, if the fucking you ever see police officers pull up in front of my house, it's me coming out with a cup of fucking coffee and a fucking blanket.
You're going to jail.
My wife's going to jail, not me."
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, they asked Frank that question. He's like, "Do you feel safe at home?" He's like, "Not always."
No, I'm like, "Can you ask her to leave and I'll answer the question?"
When Misha fought Jessica I in Chicago, I cornered Caraway and Misha fought on the same car.
Okay.
So they both won. The next day we go down to Wrigleyville. We're out bumping around, having some beers, and I go up to the bar with Misha. I got her arm around her. Let's go grab some shots. My wife, we're all partying, having a great time, right? Mid-afternoon, this old lady's just fucking staring at me. And I'm like, what is this fucking old lady staring at me for the whole time? And I was like, "Can I get 2 shots of Jameson?" She's like, "You're a shitty man."
Really?
And I was like, "What the fuck are you talking about?" And I like look, and she's got double black eyes. And I was like, no. She just fought last night in the UFC. I swear to God, I lay a fucking hand on her, you know? But, you know, we don't think about it.
No, it wasn't. I mean, we even went to, I remember it was like 2 or 3 days later. Now she has a big black shiner. And we're at Bella's softball game with family and friends that know us.
Right.
And we're sitting down. I mean, you know how it is with when we're with the team for like 3 or 4 years. And so, you know, they know us very well. We go out of town together. So I remember sitting there, and they were just kind of like looking over at us. I'm like, really? Come on.
Yeah, come on, guys.
Seriously. I mean, to Jennifer's defense, she was like, she kind of like just broke the ice. She goes, "Okay, everybody, look. if Frank ever wanted to fucking hit me, do you think I would be here with only a black
today.
eye?
Exactly.
He's a professional fighter who's in the heavyweight division.
Yes,
You know what I mean?
yes.
Like, I think I'd have more than a black eye. You know what I mean? Like,
Oh, man.
Yeah. Jeez. Well, let's. Yeah. So I am in my my second day. Completed my second day today of the Wimp to Warrior program, and so we're going to. I told Richie that we would track the progress. We keep all the listeners informed, talk about it on the show. And Jessica Rose Clark is the coach, which is exciting because she's one of our listeners' favorites here on the show. So I get to see her every morning. So and boy, by every morning I mean early every morning.
that shocks me because I saw her today too at the 11:30 practice.
Yeah.
She's sparring, moving with Bella, moving with the other girls and stuff. Like, what time does she get up?
Well, I mean, she meets us there at 7, so
That's a
she
long
could be up
fucking
at-
day.
So, yeah,
How long's your practice for?
90 minutes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so what it is. It's a 90-minute practice, 5 days a week for 5 months.
Awesome.
Yeah, and it's pretty cool. It's like
What'd you guys do today?
Today was a lot of jiu-jitsu drills. Now, I mean, stuff like shrimping. That I mean, I know that stuff, but there are people who are going to have to learn that. So they're showing them that kind of stuff. So it's
On the days you don't go to work, you should stay, and then when I go to the 11:30 practice, we can work afterwards a little bit. Or if you tell me you're going to stay, I'll come a little early if you want to do a little extra technical work. Obviously, nothing to raise your heart rate because you already had a workout. But anything as far as like just just
Drills.
to help,
Right, right.
help
Drills.
polish stuff. It's like,
Yeah.
hey, you know what? Just move
good
your
idea.
thumb here, move your elbow here.
Right.
Think of it this way. That
Yeah.
always helps me out. I'll be like, hey, this is your objective. I know that that's
Yeah.
what they're doing, but think more about your hips here.
Yeah, we'll definitely do that because I'm excited to learn the striking stuff because I could tell that I had more because I asked him. You heard him in the interview because I said, do you? He said normally they don't take anybody that's got color on their belt. I got a blue in jiu-jitsu, but he said now's the time to do it. He said because honestly, if I waited any longer, they wouldn't take me because they want people who really have what they would consider little to no experience, right? And I have zero experience with any striking, no Muay Thai, nothing like that. So that's
have
the
you
stuff
ever wrapped
I'm
your hands
really
and hit
excited.
mitts before?
No, I mean many years ago, as far as just like a cardio thing,
Right,
but not with any serious intent. No, so that'll all be pretty new,
Yeah.
pretty new
Cool,
to me. So I'm
man.
excited to learn that.
Are
Yeah,
you liking it?
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, some of the stuff right now they said for the first couple of weeks they would just build up conditioning stuff like that, and then we get to actually the light contact to heavier contact to stuff like that, and the sampling of people that are in is interesting too because it's about 40 people in there, and I say this because if anybody's watching this, they're going to hear us talk about this and they're going to think about doing it again because they do it twice a year here in Vegas. They'll do it again I think in January, pretty much right after this one concludes. But it's first of all, there was pretty healthy representation of females in there. I'd say maybe a dozen or so, and then with guys
That's mind-boggling to me still.
yeah
Because I still come from the generation
Yes.
that
Yeah.
female fighting was a taboo almost.
Right.
yeah
Right.
So for me,
Yeah.
girls kickbox and box and jiu-jitsu, but the whole MMA thing,
MMA,
I mean,
yeah.
you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah, and there was so there's good representation of girls in there. There were some older guys. The thing is, most of those guys were bigger than me.
Right.
So if I
So now your possible opponent is one of these, correct?
oh
One
yeah,
of these
will
guys?
be. Yeah,
Okay,
that's
yeah.
the thing. I mean, it's kind of Ultimate Fighter like.
Yeah, so you're
in the
kinda
sense that
sizing these
you're-
dudes up
Yeah,
and seeing,
you're
like, fuck, who am I
training with
fighting?
everybody, everything. But it's cool too because it's like everybody's really supportive of everybody. I mean, most everybody's in pretty good shape. There were a couple of people in there who, I mean, they're going to benefit from just getting weight down and stuff like that. But that's cool too because it's
Yeah.
like there's room for them in this because that was one of the byproducts of jiu-jitsu when I started training was I mean I wanted to train to learn the art and everything, but
Yeah.
boy, you get in some good shape.
Right.
You use muscles you're not using a lot of times and stuff like that.
For
So,
sure.
Yeah.
And I think 90% of anything that you do to defend yourself in a street fight is going to be jiu-jitsu related.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, that was always my reasoning for wanting
For
to take
sure.
it as far as I did. So it's it's pretty exciting.
awesome,
I'm
yeah.
enjoying doing it. So
or a couple of times I'll make sure I come in at the 7 o'clock. Come watch it.
yeah, that's right. Yeah, there we go. Okay, not and I maybe what we do we should maybe especially if I figure out who my opponent is at some point, we'll just have you sit there and utter a couple of well placed ooh wow
Yeah.
jeez.
Well, you got
Boy,
he's cornering
look at
you.
that
He's got to
technique.
get in there and corner your
That's
ass.
right. Yeah.
His voice,
Or
you
just
know.
some scouting.
Exactly.
Yeah, we got to get all that worked out. All right, very nice. I got to start getting sponsors lined up. Man, I'm behind the game. Okay. Hey, thanks for coming in, man. I hope you had a good time. It was a lot of
Thanks for
fun.
having me. I had a blast.
Yeah.
I was super stoked when you invited me down. So.
Good, man. Well, don't let it be the only time. Come
No,
back and
love
hang out
to.
with us again, especially
Love
just
to.
being down the street there at Xtreme Couture. Eric Nicksick has been our guest. You can follow. What's the Instagram handle again?
Eric_XCMMA.
That's it. All right, Frank, do your two very important things. First of all, tell everybody about that Amazon banner on the front of phoneboothfighting.com.
Hey, really, it's an effortless way to help us out here at the show. Anytime you do your shopping on Amazon, just do that extra favor to us just to click through our banner on our webpage. By doing so at no extra cost to you, a small percentage comes back to us here at the show.
Absolutely. Go on iTunes, look up Phone Booth Fighting, click on those 5 stars. That gives us a good rating. And if you have an extra moment or two, write a favorable line in the review section. We like to read those on the air. Finally, Frank, tell them how to follow us on social media.
Hey, Facebook and Instagram, you can follow us at Phone Booth Fighting. Snapchat and Twitter is just Phone Booth Fight.
That's it. For Eric and for Frank, I'm Richard, and we'll see you right back here next time on Phone Booth Fighting.